Eckhart! Think about the future.
This is Renee on the news floor. Dane, I need some paramedics up here now.
All right.
New and improved Joker products with a new secret ingredient. Smiley.
That luscious tan, those ruby lips and hair color, so natural, only your Undertaker knows for sure. Where can I get these fine new items? Well, that's the gang. Chances are, you bought them already.
Love that Joker.
The gangs clubs and nations, causing grief in human relations. It's a turf war on a global scale. I'd rather hear both sides of the tale. See, it's not about races, just places, faces. Where your blood comes from is where your space is. I've seen the bright get duller. I'm not gonna spend my life being a color.
Tell me you agree with me when I saw you kicking dirt in my eye. You're thinking about my baby. It don't matter if you're black or white. It don't matter if you're black or
Yeah, we back in the house. Yeah, I had to get back into Dark Knight mode for this one. In fact, I'm probably gonna have to go into detective mode. Yeah, if you know, you know. Anyway, I'd like to welcome you all to another exciting episode of the Night Riders Squad cast. And yes, we are back. And you know, I know you guys have been chomping at the bit. You have been wanting me to go in on the Joker again. I get it. I did say that I was gonna do another video. I kind of got sidetracked. Had some other things to do, both online and off. With regard to online, you know, I just had to dust off the cybernetic G and the bionic bang brigade, and we're just going to touch on her briefly. She is basically just crashing out, falling apart. We got a little video of her just coughing and sniffling, and it was crazy, snorting all her way through her last video. So there was nothing really substantial, because otherwise we would have hit her with our third round, but it won't be necessary. You know, she pretty much, as I said, we just had to smack around the cybernetic. It's like we had to smack the humanoid form off of her and just reveal the cyborg. But we'll keep her in the scope if needed in the future. We may have to double back and see what she's talking about. And I'm gonna touch on her briefly because, like I said, I got a little clip that they were able to get for me of her. I mean, it's crazy. You just got to see it for yourself. But I'm gonna play that a little briefly here. But at any rate, we are going to get it in with regard to the Joker, because, like I said, I do have some guys that kind of keep me in the loop as far as what she's talking about, because I don't follow a lot of what the Joker is talking about. Ever since we pretty much dissected her and she's been unable to escape the intellectual Arkham Asylum that I put her in, she evidently does not function within a realm of intellectual honesty or integrity, because she asked specific questions that were answered, and she has not lived up to her end of the bargain, you know, with regard to her putting it out there that if someone could debunk what she said, then she would make some type of adjustments, which she didn't. And of course, we're not expecting her to. I mean, she's the Joker, for goodness sake. I mean, what do you expect, right? But I do this for you guys' edification, because some of the foolery that she's put out in one of these videos, and like I said, it kind of works kind of serendipitously, because I was going to address some things, but she made a video that's basically custom made for me to dissect. And I think it was because I was giving so much attention to the cybernetic G, because you got to understand about the Joker, she doesn't just want my attention over here, she needs my attention. Because what you'll notice is whenever she wants me to address her, she can't let her Harley Quinn exotical followers let her know that she is highly invested in the things that we say over here, and then she's doing a little creepy article thing and always finding out what we're saying about her. But what she'll do is she'll start just going in on unambiguous black men, and she made about like 10 videos in the past week or so. I think a few of them were dealing with unambiguous black men and passport bros, and anything that she thinks I am, she just starts going in without trying to call me by name, but everybody knows who she's trying to, refer to, because evidently, she saw me going in on the cyborg, and she was calling herself trying to address some of the things I said against the cyborg in her video, but we're going to get into it. This is going to be one of our classic dissections. One of those other terms that the Joker tried to steal from over here, among other things. I think some of my guys, we're going to put together a compilation video, just so you guys will know that when I say stuff like this, I'm not being facetious. There's about 10 talking points that this Joker has tried to lift from over here, and it's kind of funny to me because it doesn't really even apply the way she's trying to use it. And just like I said before, I don't mind people using the term dissection and other things like that, as long as you're using it correctly, which she does not, by the way. And another term that I'm starting to use more, and I'm starting to hear more people use, is the term shoehorning. And obviously, these are terms that have pre-existing definitions, but what I like to do is flip things and make it relevant to our specific context. And when I say shoehorning, I'm talking about how a lot of these women, such as EU and cybernetic G, they will take unrelated events and circumstances, and they'll always try to find a way to shoehorn or force fit black men into the scenario. Now, in this particular instance, what we're going to get into today is we're going to talk about the fact that the Joker has tried to make an assertion. She's tried to assert that men can hit the wall, right? She made a video. I didn't get a chance to review it until recently. But as I said, I got people telling me stuff and certain points that they want me to address. And she was basically trying to equivocate between women hitting the wall and men hitting the wall, which is ridiculous, and I'm going to break it down why that's so ridiculous. But like I said, I use this terminology shoehorning because what they do is when there's terms that are custom made for them, they try to put men into it. It's almost like you have somebody who has a size 6 foot and the shoe is a size 6, meaning a lot of the things that we say that as it pertains or relates to women, it's not even trying to be insulting. We're just stating facts, right? But what they'll do is, because obviously they're the queens of deflection and they don't want accountability, instead of them having the shoe that fits wearing, that shoe, what they like to do is try to take your size 12s or your size 13s and try to stuff them into the size 6 that's custom made for them. And even though, just like if you try to ever, put your feet into a smaller shoe, because, I have pretty big feet, right? So sometimes if I'm even in a size 12, sometimes I need to get like a size 12 and a half or a 13 just for it to get comfortable. And if I try to put my foot in a size 12, it may not be comfortable. But certainly a size 6, it just ain't going to work. But at least part of my foot, maybe some toes or the first quarter of my foot may fit in, and these goofy broads would be like, see, he can fit it too. Just because part of your feet, because there are some overlaps and there's things that sometimes may apply, right? But what they like to do is take the exceptions and try to make it a rule. And they're doing that with this whole wall thing. But again, we're going to do a classic dissection. And Joker, I know you've been waiting for this because, she gets all sweaty and tingly in her little Joker nether regions, spewing Joker juice everywhere whenever I mention her. But it's okay, Joker. I know it's been a while. I think it's been since last year since I addressed her directly with our last classic that we dropped on her. But this is going to be worth the wait. So just sit tight, kick back, and relax because we're going to go in today. So at any rate, we're going to get it in. And I'm just going to kick it off with a video that, like I said, very quick, that Cybernetic G made. Because like I said, if she said anything that was cogent or in any way relevant, I would have dropped our third round on her. But again, like I said, she didn't really cobble together enough to where I felt the need to do anything. And, she's still just kind of going on and on. I've already completely debunked her. And you best believe she saw that video, and she pretty much does what a lot of them do. They just try to maintain the BS. But one thing you'll notice is she's starting to kind of, shift some of her narratives a bit, because they understand that a lot of these same old tropes just ain't gonna fly no more, because now those of us who are putting out content, even you guys who have even smaller channels than me, don't let that discourage you, because you'll be surprised who's listening to you and the impact that you have. I don't care if you got 100 subscribers, 200, whatever. And some of my night writers, those of you who want to create channels, holler at me on the back channel, because we're working on some things right now, because I know you guys want to have that night writer community that we've been talking about. But the thing is, how I do over here. I don't like to follow the trends. I'm not going to do a Discord, because we've done a lot of research, and I know a lot of you guys can appreciate this because you understand cybersecurity like a lot of us do over here. And Discord is not the best for what I want to do. And I did find a particular app that I think is better. And it's not Signal, by the way, because you know what happened with that whole debacle that came out when those governmental officials were using Signal and everything got out. We got one that's end-to-end encryption, all of that, because Discord is not. And those of you who know, what I'm talking about. I found one that's end-to-end decryption. You can do a lot of the same things that you can do on Discord and more. So I'm going to be telling you guys about that. So, you send me emails. I know I've not been doing stuff on Patreon, but I guarantee you what I have in the works, once I roll it out, it's going to be worth it. That's why I kind of halted doing some stuff, because once we put together this, we're going to make that available for people on Patreon, as well as my diehard night writers. We have a platform that we're going to be doing where you can just come on there regardless, and we can talk about things behind the scenes. We're going to be building up like that, but I'll tell you more about it, but like I said, we already found the particular platform. I'm just building it up, and among other things. But anyway, that's something for another day. But what we're going to do now, like I said, I'm going to go in on this video that Cynthia G posted, and I just want you guys to judge for yourself what you think she's going through. Not sure if it has to do with that body bag we gave her the last time, but she's allegedly having some type of allergic reactions. Her cybernetic programming is on the fritz. But I just want you guys to observe, and then we're going to move on to the Joker. So let's get it. Check this out. Hold on. Go ahead and load that up. Okay, here you go.
All right, they're done and out. Sorry, y'all, they're done and out. So now we can continue. I forgot where we were, but let me get back to, let me find out where we were.
She just started. It looked like she out of breath already. And I noticed she changed her little leopard, because you would think that she would be wearing the leopard skin head dressing with that leopard print dress she got on, or wherever the hell that is. And I noticed that her hair, she's not wearing the doll hair anymore. She has like some blonde braids. So I guess that's progression. But now she has this little Swami Hinduist type head dressing on her head, as opposed, because maybe she didn't like the way I went in on her Mobutu dictator of Congo leopard skin head dressing, so she decided to mix it up. But I digress.
Let me find out where we were. Because I know, we were on TikTok. We'll go over.
So, I don't know. I think maybe she needs to make her, or give her cybernetic circuitry some resting, because she's, throughout this video, I didn't watch all of it, because like I said, I was just kind of scanning to see if there was anything that I needed to address. But she's pretty much just stumbling and coughing and sniffling through the whole video, so it's kind of weird. But like I said, I think her her Skynet programming is malfunctioning. But let's go.
Excuse me. This is my last day of taking the antibiotics, y'all. I took the last pill, so
Now, why does a cyborg need antibiotics?
hopefully this will be cleared up soon. Oh, it's almost time for us to be live on YouTube. It's almost time for us to be live on YouTube. We're gonna make it public, but I wanted to show y'all. I just wanted to show y'all what we gonna talk about with Umar Johnson, because we are gonna drag him.
Okay, see, and that's another thing. That's the reason why we go in on a Cookie Monster too, because you give occasion Cookie Monster, because I know he listens to this broadcast as well. The reason when you get caught up like that, Cookie Monster, you give this cyborg an opportunity to drag you, as well as throw black men in general under the bus. Now, to her credit, at least the parts that I saw, she was basically keeping it on you, which is good. And that's one of the things that we've done. We've helped to push back against those people such as Cynthia G, who always wanted to try to shoehorn black men instead of focusing on the one black man that they're dealing with. So I think she's starting to do that more. But like I said, I haven't been following her a lot. I just happened to come across the last video that we dissected. But that's the reason why we go in on the Cookie Monster too, and other guys like him, because they keep giving ammunition to a cybernetic organism like this who's going to take it and run with it. But, and then I'm going to speak on that real quick, because we did drop the a video. You know, we put the short out there about Umar going in on that last broad that he dealt with, and apparently her pH was off, and it was funny, he was going in. But at the same time, we got to look at you, Umar, because if them the type of broads you slumming around with, then that's a reflection on you. Because I look at it like this: that's a one and done. You claim that you only got with that broad 3 times, but at what point did you realize that she was acidic? Because it sounds to me like if you were going back for seconds and thirds, then apparently there was something, you claimed that she was just good with the head game, but the bottom line is, for those of us who got standards, that's a no-brainer. Meaning we ain't even gonna take the brain if she's rotten. You know what I'm saying? That right there is a one and done. You know, so if you went back, then that's a problem. That's why Cybernetic G went in on you like that. And I'm not gonna have to play that part, but when the Cookie Monster goes out here and he comes across a rotten cookie, he wants to get on the internet and start talking about it, he's giving ammunition to the cyborgs and the Jokers and all these other critters that are out here. So I just wanted to point that out. But again, we just got a couple of things I want you to see on this video, and then, like I said, we're gonna go in on this Joker. Let's go.
Anissa is not coming. She confirmed that on she confirmed it on Instagram.
And Anissa is the Cookie Monster's daughter. So even her own daughter, his daughter is reaching out to the Cybernetic G to badmouth him even further. So this is crazy. Let's go.
She's not coming because she wanted to be paid, and I'm not somebody's cash app. So
okay, so she wouldn't even pay. So what kind of professional operation is she running that she got a guest that wants to come on there? So I guess Cynthia G, in spite of the size of her platform, she doesn't have a budget for people to get exclusive interviews or anything like that. So that's pretty interesting. She's been on YouTube how long again? Obviously more than she should be, but let's go.
I mean, it just is what it is. But I'm going to go into here and I'm going to make this live. And then we're going to go over some...
She about to fall out, man. She needs that cybernetic endoskeleton. It needs a tune-up.
I guess celebrity gossip, so to speak. And then we'll get into Umar Johnson. We will. So we'll get into Umar Johnson after that. So let me take something real quickly so I'm not coughing my head off.
And this is such a professional operation she has going on over there.
Give me a second. I'm just going to go off camera really quickly to take this allergy medicine. And then, yeah, we're going to be live on YouTube because I don't want to be coughing and having to pause and cough up mucus, which I think I'm going to end up having to do anyway. But I'm done. Today is my last day of the antibiotics, so this should be clearing up soon. Oh, yeah. Well, my birthday isn't until the 27th. So.
What kind of cyborg has a birthday?
Which we will. Sorry, y'all. This is my nasal spray.
Now, again, she says it's nasal spray, and I guess we're just going to have to go along with that. Allegedly. Let's go.
Okay. Which we probably will go live. I don't know what day it's on. It depends on how enthralled I am with moving. Because
So the cyborg is moving again, huh? So I thought you know, moving from Seattle all the way to North Carolina, wherever she moved cross country to pursue her baby daddy. I thought that was all the moving she ever was going to do. So apparently she's moving again. I wonder if it's another dude involved. Let's go.
Because like soon, like in a week or so, I have to go drop my car off at the port, so it can be taken to where it needs to go, and then I need.
Okay, so if she needs a car, so is she trying to move outside the country? So is the cyborg cybernetic passport? Do we have to have a passport cyborg edition? What is going on? Why would she need to move her car over a port? That sounds like she's moving overseas, right? So we got a passport cyborg. Not heard everything.
To like arrange stuff because y'all know all of my stuff is in a storage in Seattle for the most part. It's in a storage in Seattle, so. Oh, your birthday is the 16th. Oh, you're a Cancer. I love Cancer women. I'm going to tell y'all that right now. I really like Cancer women. The men,
Okay, so she's into all the astrology stuff. Now, I'm not a Cancer, so I don't know what the hell she's talking about. But she's apparently, you know, she likes Cancer women, but not Cancer men. Surprise, surprise. I'm sure there's not many signs that men have that she likes, but anyway.
I like Cancer women. I actually think Cancer women are some of the nicest women. They're some of the nicest, friendliest women, actually. I think. They got a problem with taking accountability, but...
Yeah, I think that's a standard issue right there.
The Cancer's got a problem with accountability, but I do like Cancers. They I actually do like the women. Only the women, though. I don't.
What is she doing? See, this is a crazy live. I've seen enough. Like I said, it was just another clip. I just want you guys to see how she's just pretty much just, I mean, I don't know why that passes for any type of professionalism, but it's crazy. But speaking of lack of professionalism, let's go ahead and segue into the Joker. So we're going to go ahead and start this dissection. So let me make sure everything is nice and ready. Because we're going to go in. You guys are going to enjoy this one. Because this Joker thought that she was going in. But you know, this is the home of the dissection. And my speciality is dissecting Jokers like this. But let's go ahead and get it loaded. Okay, let's get it.
Hey Pretty Girl Club, welcome back to the Decentering Men series. I'm not sure if I'm going to put this on the YouTube or on the Patreon, but if I end up sharing this on my YouTube channel, be sure to join my Patreon. That is actually where I'm the most consistent. That's where
Yeah,
I have the most in-depth content.
Yeah, we don't care about a little goofy Patreon, but let's get to the point.
The wall, because if his childhood was at the wall, in the description. But I want to talk about some of the ways that men actually hit the wall, because you hear a lot of people talking about women hit the wall. Let's talk about men. We will go decade by decade.
Okay, now first of all, we're gonna have to define terms, because these women, what they do, other than the shoehorning, is that they love to misappropriate terminologies. It's just like when they are calling women who rock with black men mammies, when historically we know what a mammy is as someone who was rocking with a white slave master, but because they don't understand terminologies or etymology, they will just use they don't do what I do, which is take a term and make it mean something that's relevant and cogent to its original meaning, and I just appropriate it appropriately. They don't do that. What they like to do is take something that had a complete opposite meaning, and they misappropriate it, i.e. shoehorning. They'll take things that are made for them, and then they try to misdirect it or deflect it to you, and I'm going to show you. Now, she's claiming that men hit the wall, right? So first of all, let's go ahead and determine what that actually means. What is hitting the wall? So you know how we do over here. We pull up receipts. And just like I dissect this Joker, I don't even need to rely on conjecture like she does. I just use unbiased research and facts. That's all I have to do. Sprinkle it in with my humor and charm, of course, but we're going to let an independent journalist tell you what the wall is. Okay, so let's read it. The wall. Women past their prime. The wall refers to the point after which a woman declines in value. It originally comes from men's sports. So that's where the term actually came from as it pertains to performance. But as it pertains, with regard to sports, as it pertains to the dating and mating scene, it's a term that's exclusively for women. So it originally comes from men's sports. Male athletes are said to, quote, hit the wall in terms of their decline in athletic performance and results. So in order to hit the wall, you have to have reached your peak in your performance, and then you inevitably decline, right, in terms of your performance in sports. Post-wall means she is noticeably into her period of decline. Quote, the wall refers to generally one of three areas of a woman's decline today. Number one, physical attractiveness. Signs she's past the wall of physical attractiveness. Two, fertility. And we understand that obviously there are differentials in terms of how genders are seen. Men obviously are not as criticized in terms of their physical appearance as women, which is understandable because women have in their repertoire, that is one of their greatest advantages, is their beauty, to the extent they have any, right? So they get to capitalize off that, whereas men have to perform. They have to earn money. They have to gain status, right? So it stands to reason that you're going to have a different standard. Just like a woman is not as scrutinized in terms of her professional accomplishments as a man is. So you understand that trade-off, right? But what this goofy broad is trying to do is make some type of false equivalency to say, oh, well, men hit the wall too. Men hit the wall too. Actually, we don't. And we don't hit the wall in the same way that women do with regard to within the social framework. But we're going to go into that. So anyway, fertility, and we already know what that is. We already know that. I mean, I just got through dissecting the cyborg based on that. Go back and watch that video. I totally tore her a new one when it came to when she tried to throw up Ebony K. Williams, right? So she sat up there trying to make this claim that somehow women can do all of this fertilizing and producing offspring on their own. Meanwhile, Ebony K, and she made it seem like Ebony K. Williams, it was just like her walking through the tulips, and she just had to spend $60, and she went into the sperm clinic and just said fill her up, and then all of a sudden she had her eggs fertilized. No, she had to go through a grueling process of IVF. It was not successful at first. She had to collect 10 eggs. I went over it. All the money she had to spend, all of that. So we understand that there's a cliff that women fall off once they reach a certain age. I pulled up the chart last time, is with the IVF, how unsuccessful it is as the women age. Men, we don't have those type of problems. We are fertile well into our 80s. Okay, so that there's no competition. So when we talk about a wall, Exoticals United, it's not just talking about the physical attractiveness, even though men don't have as much scrutiny in that department either as women, because we are more scrutinized with regard to our accomplishments. Do you understand that? She probably doesn't, but let us proceed. Now, when it comes to fertility, there is a clear distinction between men's fertility and women's fertility based on what I just told you. And then the third one they say is psychology, behavior, and pair bonding. So we're going to get into some of this, but the physical attractiveness wall, younger women are prettier with nicer skin, hair, and softer eyes than older women. And it goes down, and I'm going to let the pictures speak louder than words because this is crazy, but it's going to illustrate the point. Look at these pictures. So the picture right here on the left, finding herself, ready to settle down. See, pictures speak aloud 1,000 words. Sign she's past her prime looks. So skin, reduced smoothness and texture, the wrinkles, and that's why they spend billions of dollars. And that's why the beauty industry for women is many times greater than that of men, because of reasons like this. And it goes into the things, crow's feet, smile lines, hands, hair, eyes, moles, all of this, right? So they really go in. And it said, when she says, I hang out with guys because there's less drama. You guys see what's going on right there. And then we got the donut test right here. Let's just be friends. So that's when the donut is firm, and then I'm strong and independent. You can see it's a glazed donut, and it's has a larger center right there. And then ready to settle down. It's got even more glaze, and it's even bigger. And why can't I find a good man? And there you go. So that's the donut chart right here. So I'm making it very simple. So this right here should let you know specifically why there's a such thing as a wall for women. But let's move on. So there you go. So some memes just write themselves, right? So there you go. And the fertility wall. Women are working ever harder with beauty products and surgeries to appear younger than they really are. But inside, they are still getting old. It's kind of like getting a car and and I know women hate the car analogies, but they work so well. Don't they just work so well, fellas? But it's kind of like dropping an engine in a new car and everything else is wrong. The struts are bad. Everything else is bad. The muffler is bad. And that's what they do. That cosmetic surgery. I think EU might know something about that. That right there. Oh, and by the way, I'm sure you guys enjoyed the intro because I had to give EU a cinematic intro because otherwise she's going to be a little jealous because we did that for the cyborg. So I gave her Joker origin story intro. So that was just for you, EU. So I hope you enjoyed it. But anywho, just like when you have a car and you try to drop a new engine in it and everything else is the same age. That's what they're doing. And it's like it says here in this article, it says, but inside they are still getting old. They cannot stop it. Every month they are losing eggs. By 30 years old, a woman has lost 90% of her eggs. A man has not lost 90% of his sperm by 30. In fact, he's probably at his prime at that age. So EU, how do you explain that? How is there some type of equivalency between men and women with regard to a wall when biologically women are at their peak, meaning earlier in terms of their fertility, and by the time they're in their 30s, they've lost 90% of their fertility. whereas men are, if anything, on the uptick. And again, guys, I know this when I do these types of dissections, it's for my night riders. It's for the people who understand. I know that the Joker and women like her, even though they come over with their little creepy article selves listening, it goes in one and out the other because they're not research based, they're not facts based, they're emotional based. They're something. They're a term that I've coined. They're basically emotional and intellectual belugas. And you're not the only one that can try to use someone else's term. I'm going to flip you a little term called beluga, and I got a little something for you a little bit later on that, but just stick around. But they're emotional belugas, and he used definition of a beluga. And those of you who may not know, a beluga is a whale. They look kind of funny. They're really little chubby whales, but they're called beluga whales. And so what she'll say is that people who overeat and that were fat, and she even herself admitted to at one point being a beluga herself. And for all we know, she still could very well be one. But we're going to talk about that a little later as well. So they're intellectual and emotional belugas in that they like to have emotional junk food. That's why she has this thing called a psychological jackpot and all this type of goofiness, is because she likes the idea of just it's this intellectual and emotional comfort food, right? Just like her, she'll go into a 7-Eleven and raid it and eating a bunch of garbage because it makes them feel good. And that's what they do when it comes to this information. They just want to feel like there's an equivalency and that men hit the wall just like women do when it's total nonsense. But let's get a little bit more. By 30 years old, a woman has lost 90% of her eggs, with the rest deteriorating in quality and DNA. So yeah. And then this picture speaks for itself. I'm trying to be professional here, but you know we have fun over here too. But it's just the whole "she's not your girl, it's your turn" analogy right there. But it is the pressure of her ticking biological clock that forces her to settle down for the guy she wouldn't have dated when she was in her prime at 20. So look at the egg carton. I want to find myself. So she has almost all of her eggs. I'm a strong woman. She's down to 4. And she has 0. I'm ready to settle down. So that's it right there. I mean, I don't know how much more simple this can be, but they did a public service by giving you these analogies. So again, I'm not sure exactly what type of false equivalency she's trying to draw here, but we're going to continue. And we're already just getting started with this. And she's already basically been dissected, but we got more. You know how I do. Let's go.
If a man is in his 20s, oftentimes he's already at the wall, because if his childhood was screwed up.
Okay, now listen. How is a man in his 20s at the wall when he hasn't even reached his peak yet? Because like I said, they don't even understand how to utilize terminology within the proper framework. By definition, you cannot hit a wall until you reach your peak. That even goes for women, right? So, and again, go back to how the terminology came into existence. It was a sports analogy, which was used after the athlete had reached his peak. And those of you guys who are active like me, you know how it is. So as we get older, even though we're in shape or whatnot, we can't perform like we did when we were in our 20s. Right? Or teens, exactly. I mean, there were things I could do with my teens I wouldn't even think of doing now, right? In terms of just, because those of you who know, I'm into martial arts and, types of, different moves that I would like to do. Now, don't get it twisted. I can still defend myself, so don't run up on me because you're going to be picking yourself up off the ground. But that's not to say that things have not diminished over time. But I had a peak, and then you kind of see yourself declining. That doesn't mean you're an invalid and that you can't perform. It just means that you're not at your peak. But this goofy is saying that a man can be at a wall in his 20s. He's literally just starting out. That you might as well say that a man's hitting a wall in his teens. What are you talking about? But this is the type of foolery that she thinks passes for some type of intellectual conversation. But let's go.
Let's say he didn't have a father figure. Let's say he wasn't set up for success. Maybe
None of that has anything to do with the wall. Because remember, you see how they move the goalposts? All of that can apply to anybody. It can apply to men. It can apply to women. We're just talking about somebody who didn't have a good upbringing. What does that have to do with the biological wall that we talk about when we are talking about women? Here we go again with the shoehorning, but let's go.
he didn't get into college. He doesn't know what he wants to do with his life. He's emotionally immature. He still has traumas from high school or college. Maybe he was bullied. So he doesn't have a solid identity yet. That is actually going to serve as a roadblock when it comes to that man getting into strong, healthy, long-term relationships.
A guy in his 20s has all the time in the world to work that out. We've all had those times. We've all been through that. Oh, bad relationships. Oh, this didn't work out. Some of us even got married early. Oh, it didn't work out, even though it may have lasted a few years. Oh, man, I learned so much. Got into the next one. Those are growing pains. That has nothing to do with the damn wall. And many of us have gone way beyond whatever issues we had in our 20s. So this is ridiculous. And then she uses all these over-exaggerated emotional BS pictures. That's all she does. It's just rinse and repeat. And her little goofy Harley Quinn exoticals, they eat this stuff up and they're all goofy just like her. But let's go.
So a man in his 20s, oftentimes he hasn't had enough time to build himself up in terms of money, first of all. That's one of the main things that women are looking for.
Exactly. That's the reason why he's young and he has the time to find out what he's going to do. I mean, those of us who can remember our 20s, some of you it was longer ago than others, but we still remember that process, right? Because I remember when I was in my 20s, I was getting into the financial industry. I was getting into real estate, doing some things. And yeah, I mean, that was just the part of the process in terms of growing. But by the time I was in my 30s, I was making way more money and I was way more successful because of the things I did in my 20s. Yeah, I had to hit my head against some walls, but I didn't hit the wall, meaning there were certain things I may have tried that didn't work out, certain ideas I had, and you live and learn. But that's called a growing pain. That's not hitting the wall. But this idiot is misappropriating terms like they often do. But let's continue.
When they're looking for a man to deal with, even if they're just having casual sex or going on casual dates or whatever, oftentimes women are not looking for the brokest, most dusty man to do that with. No, usually they're looking for a man who has some attractive qualities. So men in their 20s,
Wait a minute. Right. And for the women who's looking for that, even if she herself is in her 20s and she hasn't accomplished a goddamn thing other than she might be attractive to look at, those are the type of women that date the guys who are older, right? The same type of women that you older women like EU who are 30 and up that try to, besmirch them, the same type of dudes, and we're going to get into this a little bit later, the guys who are successful and they decide they don't want a beluga, so they decide to take their show on the road and they decide to travel and they deal with the nice, firm 20-somethings overseas. Those type of situations where you guys always try to demonize. But yeah, that's the reason why. And while the guy is in his stage of development, now he may get him a ride or die. He may get a woman that's rocking with him. But at the same time, exactly, that's the reason why we talk about hypergamy. A woman who should probably be dating him at the time and building with him instead of waiting at the finish line and then trying to double back once he does get successful. And then she's 3 or 4 babies deep trying to get with the guy and wondering why he's just smashing and passing. That's how that happens. Meanwhile, while she's at the peak of her prime simply because of her physical appearance, which she didn't earn, because like I said initially, that's how it's valued. Women age like milk. At the beginning, they have all the advantages, which is fine, but a lot of them squander it, whereas men are like wine, getting better over time. So she's trying to construe this like that's some type of a wall. Meanwhile, that is more like a mountain that he's climbing, and they are like a boulder that's going down. That's why women have to make better decisions. In fact, they're not even supposed to be making the decision. That's the reason why, for all the demonization that these women try to give the patriarchy, one of the safeguards for women that the patriarchy provided was that the fathers would be able to determine which men were able to wed their daughters, because he would use his wisdom to determine the best suitor, because we know for damn sure these women do a piss poor job at picking their own mates, and that's the reason why they get busted down throughout their most fertile years, and then later on when they are dried up, just like I showed you on those illustrations, then they want to settle down. There you go. But anyway, let's get some more of this foolery.
They're starting off at the wall because they don't even have any attractive qualities yet. They haven't developed anything yet. They don't have any personality yet. They don't know how to speak to a woman. They definitely don't have conflict resolution skills.
They shouldn't even be focusing on a woman at that time. See, that's the thing that's so ridiculous of what she's saying. At the stage of development they're at, they shouldn't have those skills in terms of being a player and all that. They need to be focusing on what they're doing. I got night riders, younger men that either, tune in, or, when we have lives, they'll come in, or they'll, do a consultation with me. Those types of guys, those are the ones I tell to focus on what they need to do. You are exactly right, EU. They should not have those skills. They should not be out there knowing what to say and do to a woman. No, because they need to be focusing on themselves. Let's go.
Some of them still resort to immature tactics, such as fighting and violence. A lot of younger men.
Oh yeah, because women they're not out there fighting and doing any type of violence, right? Let's go.
And you'll see these guys are the most likely to be fighting at the bar, fighting at clubs.
Yeah, because women ain't fighting at bars and clubs.
They're doing this outlandish stuff because a lot of them have not even outgrown that high school mindset. I'm in my early 30s, and if a man tries to approach me and he's like,
Now, she's in her early 30s, allegedly. We'll go with that because, as I said, EU has already admitted that half of what she says online is BS. So, I'll give her credit for being honest about her lies. And, but at the same time, you just have to take it with a grain of salt. But let's just presume that she is in her 30s. Let's go.
27, 28, 29. I unfortunately do attract a lot of guys in their late 20s. Generally speaking, it's very difficult to take these types of men seriously because you're still in your 20s. So the stereotype of men in their 20s is that they're just hoes, basically. They're sleeping around with everyone. So that's going to serve as a wall when it comes to the men who are trying to...
So here's the thing that's interesting. At the one hand, she's saying that these guys are losers. They don't know how to talk to women. They're basically incels, right? But at the same time, she's saying that they're known as being, as guys who sleep around. So which one is it? So is it that they are incels who can't get women because they have not developed the social skills yet, and they're broke, so no woman wants to even be in the same vicinity of them? Or are they these hyper players who are just getting all the women, and they're, to the point where, you have to just kind of take a number because the broads are just wrapped around the building that they're in. You see how ridiculous this is? But anyway, I'm just going to let her talk because I guess because I've already dissected preemptively a lot of what she's going to say. So I'm going to let her talk, and I'm just going to chime in when necessary because there's a lot that I want to get to. Where we at? We're about less than an hour in. So I don't want this video. I know I normally say this, but I really don't want this to be more than about an hour and a half, 2 hours. Because there's a lot of ground to cover because, there's so much I could dissect in what she's saying, but I'm just trying to point out some of the things that I felt that were halfway worthy, but let's go.
Get into relationships. We're doing with our bodies, because my theory is that generally speaking, they do tend to be more emotionally codependent. A lot of men, a lot of young boys, they're not raised to learn how to process their emotions. So oftentimes men will seek companionship with women. Sex is still a form of companionship, even though it's...
So who's raising them though? Who are the primary raisers of boys who don't know how to manage their emotions?
It's a cheaper version of it. They're still seeking some form of companionship, whether it's him wanting to be your pen pal, through a dating app, he's still seeking a virtual companionship. Maybe he just wants to have a quote unquote friend. You guys know my theory on men who have quote unquote friends. You're not a friend at all. He's extracting emotional labor from you most of the time. You're operating as his free cheerleader. You're serving as his pen pal. So whenever he's bored or whenever he's been rejected by the woman he's...
It sounds to me like she's projecting her own personal experiences in this regard, because it's common knowledge that the ones who normally seek to be in friendships are the women. Have you guys ever heard of the friend zone? I think there were some guys out there talking about that. So those are types of situations I believe are normally initiated by women, if I'm not mistaken. So this whole thing about emotional vampirism, or someone who's just trying to use somebody as an emotional napkin or whatever, those are typically women that do that to the guys, right? So again, do you see how this is just all a projection? But let's go.
Pursuing for dating, he goes back to his female friends, and then he will text them for kind of like a boost to his ego. So you're serving as his ego maintenance machine. So a lot of men in their 20s, they haven't had time to really develop their...
And you are serving as a propaganda machine, just like Cyborg G. But I think I'm going to need to come up with a hybrid character that's a Joker cyborg or something, because this is ridiculous. But let's go.
Sense of self. A whole other version of the wall. Because a lot of men, they're going all the way into their 20s, they still don't know how to do proper hygiene. They don't know when to put on deodorant, for God's sakes.
Oh my goodness. Now I know she didn't go there. Now, over here, we try to keep it player. We try to keep it polite. We don't like to go too gutter with it. But you do not want to go there, because there are so many instances. Hell, we even got the Cookie Monster out here complaining about the hygiene of some of those Western women. It's crazy. Now, again, obviously, we know that's not every situation, and there's some women who are very hygienic and so forth. But the prevailing knowledge out there is that a lot of the guys, specifically, I hear a lot of these younger Gen Zers and millennials, they're out here really complaining about how a lot of these women out here today are not able to keep their hygiene up, and a lot of that falls back on their mothers, and they were not taught certain things. I remember when we were growing up, that was one of the things that the women in my family, they always taught the other women, their daughters and granddaughters and so forth. So that's something that has been lost, and it's evident out here in the streets. And it's so funny that she's talking about men's hygiene when black men in particular, we are world renowned for our great hygiene. You don't hear these type of tropes going around that black men are funky and all this type of stuff. You just don't hear it. Unless you talk about some homeless dude or something. But black men, that's one thing that we are known for. We talk about it over here. And this isn't even one of those types of channels. I'm at a quote image consultant, RIP to Kevin, but we've talked about making sure that we're fresh and smelling good, wearing nice custom clothing and nice shoes, and I mean that's something that we do even when we were kids as black men. Our culture, even whether it's hip hop or whatever, it's always about being what? Fresh. We've always talked about that. That was back in the day when I was growing up. That was the thing that we used to say. Oh man, that's fresh right there. We get something new. Man, that's fresh. I always got complimented because my parents made sure I went to school fresh, smelling good. I always had little girls telling me how good I smelled and how, well I was dressed. So this is a projection. But unfortunately, some of the women that have issues with their pH balance have put that out there. And unfortunately for black women in particular, that's become a stereotype. And again, I'm not saying it's true in every case, but just like how she's trying to make a false equivalency between the definition of what the wall really means between men and women, where there's no equivocation, she's trying to do the same thing with this hygiene thing. And we're going to get into that a little bit later, because I am going to address what she said about the passport bros, because she said something about them that I need to address. And we're going to talk about that because that's one of the reasons why some of the passport bros were even complaining as to why they're not even checking for a lot of, quote, Western or American women, is because they find, compared to the foreign women, you know, those women that these women always like to call the dirty foot and act like these foreign women are so dusty or whatever. When these foreign women have some of the best hygiene, they dress very well. We've all seen it. Those of us who are well traveled, we already know what it is, right? But we don't get into that. But I thought this is hilarious that she's sitting up here literally trying to project something that's a trope. When as it pertains to men, it's false, and it's not something that's even commonly said. Meanwhile, that is something that is tailor-made in terms of these hygiene problems that are going on currently in the modern society as it pertains to these feminized he-man women. But let's go.
Brushing their teeth once a week. So a lot of men in their 20s, they're just now figuring out how to get a hygiene routine. Most of these men don't even have a skincare routine. They're walking around, their nose is all oily. They've got open pores all over their face, oil and pus coming out of their skin. They got blackheads everywhere.
Okay, so again, what does that have to do with the wall? This is just normal stuff that people go through, whether you're a teenager, you may have had acne, you may have some skin problems. This is just the human experience. And as you get older, you do develop that stuff because you start understanding your skin better. Because some of us, you know, when we were teenagers, we may have not understood which types of soaps to use, what types of cologne to wear. But over time, you learn. They say, yeah, I don't want to use that because that breaks me out. Okay, boom, I'm going to use this over here. That's just part of the growing process. You know what I'm saying? So she's trying to conflate this with the wall. It's complete nonsense. But let's go.
Pimples and shit. So a lot of them are already at the wall because I think there's a stereotype that younger men are like more attractive. And it's like, no, we are women. Okay, this is women you're dealing with here. Women, generally speaking, we're smart enough to know that men that we see in the media, that's not the...
Again, she can't even get the stereotype right. The stereotype is, as it pertains to women, younger women are considered more attractive than older women. Typically, a lot of women find older men more attractive than younger men for those reasons that I mentioned, because they are normally more established and more successful and more stable and all of that. Now, in terms of physicality, if a woman is only looking for a man's look, then obviously a man looks better to a woman when he's younger, when he's more in shape and all that. You know, it depends. It depends on where that woman's head's at, right? If she's got a cougar mentality and she wants a young buck, then that's what she's going to be into. She's going to want the guy who's, you know, buff and just, you know, walking around, you know, looking like he just came out of prison or something, right? Some women like that. Other women, you know, they like the guy as long as he's in shape or, you know, he's established, he can dress well and all that. It just depends. But she's, once again, conflating what older men want versus older women. A lot of older women are, other than the cougars, want men that to be on a certain level and to be established. Meanwhile, men don't care for that. Older men normally find younger women physically more attractive. But anyway, let's go.
Representation of the average man. Okay, so every man in his 20s, he's not walking around looking like a supermodel. We already are smart enough to know that. A lot of men struggle with delusion where they're so overexposed to social media beauty and they're so overexposed to porn to the point where they think that stunning beauties are average.
And why is she always talking about porn? Like the husband that she had, 'cause I think apparently she was married to some Asian guy before, and I think maybe he was on OnlyFans instead of being with her. Some goofy stuff. I just kind of heard some stuff in passing. I don't know how true it is. This is all alleged. But I have seen pictures of her with an Asian guy. And again, I feel kind of, this is ridiculous. We all got to pretend like we don't. I feel like we're dealing with somebody who's delusional, and we all have to kind of go and play along because she sits up there and tries to act like she's not this person. She talk about she will not confirm or deny. Well, EU, if you're not this person, could you please give this woman an apology? Because all of us have been posting her pictures. This is so dumb. I gotta be calm down. This is so stupid. You're letting us use this. Let me try to get this out. You are letting us use this poor woman's picture, and you're letting us believe it's you, when all you have to do, EU, is come out and say, hey, lady, can you come on my platform, and then me and you both can have a live, and then you guys could show the world that this is not actually you. So we have to sit up here and use these pictures because you will not confirm or deny. So if it is you, or I'm sorry, if it's not you, then why don't you just show who you are so we can stop using this poor helpless woman's picture, and we can actually use your likeness as opposed to this woman. So that shows you how diabolical and Jokeress you are. Either way, that you would not come clean about your real, who you are. And if it's not you, you're allowing us to drag this poor I can't do this. This is so stupid. She's up there literally trying to make us believe that this isn't her. This is so dumb. So EU, why don't you just one way or the other confirm or deny? Say, yo, that is not me, and I'm going to get in touch with this woman, and she's going to tell you that this is not her, and then I will personally take down every thumbnail and picture that I posted, any video that I've done. I will go back and edit this out up to and including this one right here. I will make a point to get this poor woman off of my videos, since this is not you, or you won't confirm and deny this, right? And another thing about this, EU, the standard for you should be higher when it comes to stuff like this, because your whole channel is based on beauty. So how is it that you have not yet confirmed or denied as to whether or not you have beauty when that is what your channel is about? Myself personally, I've even been on cam. I've had people complimenting me. I've been on panels. I've used my own pictures. And this is nowhere near a beauty-centered channel. I don't greet my Night Riders as, hey, handsome guy club. I don't do all that. You open your panels or open your videos with, hey, pretty girl club, and no one knows whether or not you're actually pretty. You are, this is ridiculous. How is it that I'm more authentic in what I'm doing than you are, even when it comes to your particular branding? You are supposed to be a beauty-centered channel. And let's compare apples to apples. Again, you're the exotical. You're supposed to be the one who likes cross-cultural stuff. We don't have any proof you've actually ever even been outside the country. You always talk about different cultures and stuff. Some of us, we speak different languages. We live in different cultures. I've been on camera showing backgrounds in nice places, nice fountains and nice scenery and all this. I myself has been on camera. You yourself have not. But yet and still, you have all of this to say, talking about beauty and privilege and all this stuff. This is so dumb. But I just had to point that out because the hypocrisy is palatable, and it's amazing that someone with your type of branding will, once this comes out that people believe you look a certain way, then you don't even put your foot down and say, you know what, I'm just going to show myself so that I can dispel all of this proof. Get on cam. I mean, what's the big deal? I've earned the right to decide if I want to be on cam or not, because again, I've already been on cam, and like I said, I'm official out here in these streets. A lot of my Night Riders and other people who followed me over from my other channel, they know what I look like. They've seen me on cam. They see my actual photos. And like I said, I'm nowhere near trying to be a beauty-centered or a handsome channel and all that. But I've personally been complimented. I've had people tell me, oh, you look younger than what you are. Man, you dress nice. Man, all of that. I've gotten all of that. And I'm not even a beauty or handsome or attractiveness centered channel. You know how we get down over here and the type of stuff that we talk about. We don't get into all that vanity. But you personally have not proven that you have any of these privileges that you're talking about. And it's just so weird and ridiculous. But that was a sidebar. I just had to go in on her for that because she got us using this poor woman on the screen. This picture is classic, man. And what's so funny is if we evaluate this picture, and like I said, I'm going to get right back into it, guys. But, and you know, she's talking about in some of her videos that she has 3C hair. Now, we all know what this is. Look at this corner. Look at this right here. We're going to zoom in on it. That is not 3C hair. And in EU, you do not have to be embarrassed. We like 4C hair over here, right? That's the thing. I'm not clowning you for the 4C hair. I'm clowning you because you're sitting up here lying, talking about, because until further notice, until you prove this is not you, this is you, goddammit. So this hair right here, this is not 3C. We all know what that is. We all know what that is. Those of us who got black women in our family, we done seen this before. So she ain't fooling no goddamn body. You know, you can't fool us, EU. We know this is you. This is you, EU. Okay? This is EU. All right? So, again, we know what that is over there in that corner, that little, you know, patch right there. We know what that is. That is not a 3C texture. Okay? And that's okay, you know, because like we said before, and we've had panels, we've talked about hair. Some of us prefer a curl, or we prefer everything from 4C to 3C or whatever. You know, some of us like that. Some guys, you know, they may like pale skin and light skin. You know, the night riders, a lot of us, we prefer melanated women with 4C hair, 3C. So, you know, you don't have to be embarrassed. You know, in fact, to be honest, a lot of us prefer women looking more natural than with the bleach and the 4C wigs and all that. But anyway, I'm not clowning you because of your phenotype. I'm clowning you because you're not sitting up here coming clean about everything that we know to be true. But anyway, I just have to go in on her. I told you guys we were going in today. I'm going to do the dissection, but I had to do that sidebar and go in on her hypocrisy. But anywho, she's going in on this particular thing about OnlyFans or porn and all this stuff. I'm like, listen, every guy is not addicted to freaking porn. Personally, I've never been on OnlyFans. I've never been. I put that on everything. I've never been on OnlyFans even once. I've heard about it. I've talked about it. I've seen people post videos that may have been clips from something from over there, but I have personally never been on OnlyFans. And so this whole idea that every guy, you know, it's like she brings this up pretty often. And apparently this was something that her ex had a problem with. But I find it amazing that these women, they'll have these experiences and they just keep trying to extrapolate them to the larger male populace. Now, obviously, as men, we like looking at beautiful women and doing all of that. So that's not to say that we've not featured attractive women. We do that over here too. People send me videos, or we'll get videos off of different places. I mostly, you know, get things off of YouTube. I don't go to OnlyFans or whatever, or porn sites to get pictures of women. You know, they're everywhere. You don't have to do that. You know, women are scantily clad everywhere. So we featured that. We've had the, you know, I did the first unambiguous versus exotical pageant, and I know EU went and saw that, and she probably didn't like the fact that the unambiguous women won, because we did a fair vote. You know, the exoticals won one of the categories. The unambiguous women won the classy category. The exoticals won the sexiness category, because that right there is the strong suit, because a lot of exoticals are fetishized and sexualized because there's a premium put on sexiness, and that's this thing that she's conflating with privilege is basically sexual marketability. So a lot of the exoticals are seen as sexier than a lot of the unambiguous women, but unambiguous women are seen as classier when they are classy, not the ones that are ratchet and all of that. And the other category that we had was talent. And a lot of the unambiguous black women are seen as better in terms of dancing, in terms of singing, in terms of other types of performances. That's not to say the exoticals don't have talent too, But during our scientific voting indicated that the unambiguous women edged them out when it came to that. So that's the reason why they won the pageant. But again, the exoticals dominated when it came to sex appeal. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. If you did not see that video, you need to go check it out. That's the world's first unambiguous versus exoticals pageant. But anyway, let's get back into this work. But I just had to do that sidebar and go off on her a little bit. But let's go.
We already are smart enough to know that. A lot of men struggle with delusion where they're so overexposed to social media beauty and they're so overexposed to porn to the point where they think that stunning beauties are average. And we obviously are smarter than that as women. So a lot of us women, we're not overexposed to the male image. We're not
no guy believes that the average women are stunning beauties or any of that foolery. So this is all ridiculous. But let's go.
Overexposed to men's attractiveness. So we don't have the same level of thirst that men have. Not to mention the fact that we can be satisfied with not having as much sex or...
Yeah, that's because we are physiologically different. Men are more sex driven because we have testosterone. We have a lot of different things. And if we did not, then the human population wouldn't exist. So that's the only reason. A lot of these women conflate, which is what was nothing than a biological function in terms of men's testosterone and hormones and things like that makes men have a high sex drive and therefore makes them more attracted to women. These women are conflating this with their own personal desirability, and they're thinking that it's them that's making these men so attracted to them when nothing could be further from the truth. It's coming from the inside out. It's not because of you. Now, again, we can see an attractive woman and get aroused, but that's the reason why there's something called post-nut clarity. Because some of us who've been with attractive women, yeah, initially we're ready to go, but once we're done, we're not necessarily as interested. We've all been there at some point, right? But that's what that is. That's a biological function. It has nothing to do with how great you are or anything, because a lot of women don't have the personalities or the charisma to hold a man's attention. You guys know very little about some of the things that we're interested in terms of world events, in terms of whatever that our hobbies might be. So other than your sex appeal, what exactly is it that's going to make you so irresistible? But anyway, let's go.
Just being celibate.
Especially in the West, when you don't even want to be cooperative. And that's the reason why a lot of us have taken our show on the road, is because at the very least, a woman needs to be willing to be on our program without all that mouth. Well, let's go.
So a lot of men in their 20s, if you combine insecurity with codependency, and then you combine that with him not having any good things going for himself, of course you're going to get community dick. That's what's going to come out of that. That's what he's going to serve as, because he doesn't have any other role in society.
So which one is it? Is he some incel that's just watching porn and OnlyFans all day, or is he community dick? You see how ridiculous this is? Again, what she's trying to do is force fit or shoehorn the stereotypes about them onto men. That's why this doesn't fit. But anyway.
He doesn't have anything that he needs to uphold. Most of the time, men in their 20s, they're just completely screwing up and wasting time. This is where a lot of men, they start experimenting with drugs. They start experimenting with drinking. They start smoking all the time because maybe they just moved out of their parents' house. So that's a form of them starting off on the wall. They have the audacity to say, oh, well, you guys hit the wall. No, you started off on the wall in your 20s, Tyrell. For a lot of men, their 20s, that's when they take a lot of big risks. So they're doing all this high-risk behavior. This is where you'll see a lot of young men. They're taking out loans that they can't afford to pay back. This is where a lot of men are making their first financial mistakes, okay?
That is what the 20s are for. What is she talking about? Yes, they will take risks because they can bounce back. That's the whole point. Were they supposed to wait until they're in their 50s and 60s to start taking risks? What are you talking about? Risks are part of life. We've all done it. Sometimes it pays off, sometimes it doesn't. But at that young age, that's the whole objective. That is not a wall That is trial and error, and that those are growing pains. This woman has no idea what she's talking about. Let's go.
The first time his car is getting repoed. This is the first time he's getting evicted. I call the 20s the fuck around and find out era for most men. Okay, this is his first time cheating on somebody. Then he gets his...
She's so... let me just go, because like I said, we got some more stuff to cover. Let's go.
Car window smashed. You know, this is his first time getting into a physical fight with his girlfriend. Now he's got a DV charge. First time getting caught committing a crime. He's actually being charged as an adult. And let's be realistic here, because a lot of women, they try to say things like, oh, well, Exoticals United, you're probably just talking about black men. We're divesting. We're hypergamous. We're only dating old, rich, white men. No, you're not. You're dating one of the 87% of men who makes less than 100K per year by the time he's in his 40s. So that's who I'm talking about. I'm talking about the average man that you're going to see walking down the street. I don't care what color he is. But most likely, he's not going to be a multimillionaire, and especially not in his 20s, for God's sakes. So that's why I say, for a lot of men, they're starting out at the wall.
That's not the wall. Of course, he's not going to be. It takes time to grow. Let me just fast forward, because I was going to try to dissect some of this other stuff, but it's just, I've already kind of preemptively dissected this stuff, but I'm going to get to some key points here. Hold on. Let me scan through it.
I can put everything off. It's okay. I can spend up all my money now. I can max out all my credit cards. No big deal. So they're under this illusion that they're invincible. They're under this illusion that...
And we've already went over the data, guys. We already know that women are way more either in debt, whether it's, college debt. They like to brag about being the most enrolled in college. Meanwhile, they got the most college debt, while guys are out there doing the damn thing, working, and they're carrying less debt, both on credit cards and loans. And the guys are making more money, and the guys are managing and investing their money, whether it be in crypto, commodities, whatever you guys are into, right? We talk about it. We have the whole conversations about that. Some of you guys, we have consultations. You guys do a lot of research when it comes to the investments and so forth. So this is all nonsense, right? Women at that age, specifically younger, they're buying Birkin bags, they're doing all this. They are making the worst money decisions ever, but yet she's once again making a false equivalency. Let's go.
They're always going to look how they look today, and us women...
So she's killing me with these dramatic ass pictures, boy. She be wearing Windows Movie Maker out with this, or whatever she's using, a little cheap program, but anyway.
Regardless of their color. But a lot of men in their 20s, they're not taking care of their physical health. So they don't have as good of like a sleep schedule or like a meal schedule. So they're going to often struggle with codependency. Okay, that's a form of him already starting off at the wall.
And again, this is general. This can go to men or women. This all boils down to making bad decisions. So everything that she's describing is a man who's not taking care of himself, not applying himself. He's just a slacker or a bum. This has nothing to do with a physical wall. I want you guys to remember that. As you guys are listening, we're having fun. I'm dissecting her and all of that, clowning her, which is appropriate. You should be clowning the Joker, but I want you to keep your eyes on the prize, right? The whole basis and the premise of this is she's trying to equivocate with the women hitting the wall to men hitting the wall. So she's trying to introduce this idea that men hit the wall. And again, we've already defined it. We know that it has to do with physical restrictions, whether it be physical attractiveness, which we already debunked, because we know as men get older, because of their status and wealth that they can accumulate, that automatically makes them more attractive. Fertility, we already know that men can be fertile well into senior citizen age, which is more than I can say for women, right? So these are all false equivalencies. But let her tell it. Everything that she's saying is relevant to that point when it's not. But let's go.
It's hilarious how people say, well, you hit the wall. Women are only in their prime in their 20s. Okay, so then thank you for admitting that women are in their primes and that men are beneath them.
We've been saying, well, we're not making, see, for somebody who talks against hierarchy thinking, she really has a lot of hierarchy thinking. No one's saying that you're above. Yeah, we've openly said that women in their prime, when they're in their 20s, they're in their prime. They're at the peak of their attractiveness. They're at the peak of their fertility. No one's denying that. We've been saying that from Jump Street. But the difference is they are declining. They are depreciating. As opposed to the men who's gaining value. That's the whole point. But the bottom line is it's not a wall. The woman, as she's declining, she's going to hit that wall. The man is on the come up. He's starting on a lower scale with regard to his socio-economic situation because he's learning. He's making all those things you're trying to clown him about. Those are the growing pains that he needs to go through so that he can become greater later. But again, for someone who's so vocal against hierarchy thinking, she certainly has hierarchy thinking as it pertains to men, doesn't she? Anyway, let's go.
Number 3, men start having romantic ego bruises in their 20s. So if he is...
You know what? This is just foolery. I was trying to work through this. It's hard for me to take any of this serious because she's basically just regurgitating the same circular logic. She's just using the same things that, like I mentioned, are nothing more than the process of a man growing and learning and developing as he ages. And then once he reaches the cumulative peak of the things that he's learned, the incomes that he's gained, the investments he's made, that's when he's at his peak. So how the hell is he at a wall when all of the things that he's learned, all of the lumps and bruises that he's taken that has made him stronger makes him better? It's like I've said before, and I'll say it again. When men go through things, it makes them experienced. It makes them better. When women go through things, it makes them scarred and consequently bitter, i.e. cybernetic G and the Joker. But anyway, let's go.
Men. And believe it or not, men are still chasing after women even as those women age. But a lot of people only focus on women hitting the quote-unquote wall. Oftentimes a woman hitting the wall is tied to a man. But a man hitting the wall, a lot of men start off on the wall. They're already at a financial wall.
She's just talking nonsense. So if a man is in his 20s and he's not making as much money, so he's just stuck there, so he can't learn something, he can't go into tech, he can't go into some other industry and better himself and start making money. Some of you guys listen to me have literally done that. But she's sitting up here saying that somehow you're at a wall and you can't you can progress no further. Once you reach a certain valley, there's no peak beyond that. This is dumb. And then she's talking about older women being sought after. Then why did we have Ebony K. Williams who had to go and get IVF? You know, the same thing that Cynthia G was bragging about, when in fact it cost her an arm and a leg and it still barely even worked. And all these other women who are crying all over the internet about the fact that their eggs are drying up and they thought they would be married at a certain age. And at some point in this video, I don't know if I skipped it, she's going to literally say that that's something that men say. Oh, I thought I'd be married at this age, when this is verbatim what women are saying. She's taking all of these different things that almost exclusively apply to women and she's trying to misappropriate it to men. This is crazy. But let's go. I told you, Joker, you was going to get this work. It's already looking bad for you. This is crazy. But yeah, I don't care how many pictures that you post of crying dudes. The fact of the matter is, everything that you're saying applies more appropriately and more frequently with women. But let's go.
Their vehicles. And then later on, that same vehicle gets repossessed. Oh yeah, their hair.
Women get more repossessions than anybody. But anyway, let's go. And again, I'm not bringing this stuff up. And I know I got lady night riders and people that roll. They know I ain't got no misogyny or anything like that. We're just telling the truth. That's what we do over here. We're not playing around. We know that there's women who listen that this don't apply to you. Doesn't apply, let it fly. But for women like EU and cybernetic G, who always try to twist and contort things to try to fit when it doesn't, those are the ones that get this work. But anyway, let's go.
Is actually bald-headed. Their edges are being ripped out from wearing so many baseball caps.
Okay, so now she get on here because apparently she heard what I said against the cybernetic G and how we were going in on her bionic bangs and clowning her for her hair. Again, false equivalency. Men can rock a bald head and they still are seen as attractive to the opposite sex. There's no equivalency there. Women are the ones that put such an emphasis on their hair, not men.
And trucker hats. They're getting those grays coming into their beard. That's when their beard starts looking patchy.
Yeah, but gray makes you look more distinctive. And she's going to use guys like this, right? Who are just obese, right? But women are the ones who got the highest obesity rates. This is ridiculous.
As a matter of fact, let's talk about beards. In the 30s, that's when that beer belly starts coming in. That's when his double chin first starts coming in. You know, eating all those ham hocks and chicken wings and collard greens and turkey necks.
Now, she got that from me, but that was funny. But she's trying to talk like she got some soul, but we know she's just a soulless little joker, but that was funny. But anyway, listen. When it comes to this is just a guy who is not taking care of himself. That's one of the things we talk about is diet. I just made a post talking about how you guys have to watch your sugar because we were talking about when the Exotico and Lana Lewis died and how part of the thing that she talked about was how even though when she was in public, she was in shape a lot, but you know, when she was off cam, she was eating a lot of junk and eating a lot of sugar and smoking and things like that. And that's one of the things that I encourage you guys to watch. You know, make sure you controlling your sugar intake. You're not taking the high fructose corn syrup. You're eating your fruits and vegetables. You know, we talk about all that type of stuff. And a lot of the guys who rock with us over here, you guys are in shape. And again, you guys, people have seen me. They like, oh man, you know, you look a lot younger. You're in shape and all that. I get all of that, right? Which is once again to double back, because I'm sure EU may even have a double back. But to double back EU, why have you not shown yourself? You can show goofy ass pictures like this of obese guys, but you still have not proven that you yourself are not a beluga and that you could be a beluga in disguise. And you're talking as if you used to be one, but you could be very well a beluga right now. But anyway,
mac and cheese. That's when the face starts swelling up a little bit. So then he starts saying, oh, you know what? Let me grow out my beard. So he starts spending hundreds of...
Oh, so now she's trying to come for the beards. Now, as someone who has a beard, I am not growing my beard because I'm trying to hide a double chin. I do not have a double chin. I still got my jawline. I don't have none of that. I've never been obese in my life. Unlike you, EU, because like I said, you've even admitted that you were once a beluga. Because like I said, you may still very well be a beluga. But you admitted that you were a beluga. In fact, let's take a pause for the cause and just show how she admitted. We're going to come back to this because there's a couple more points I want to make here. But we're going to show how even her herself admitted that she was a beluga. Let's go. While she's talking about guys.
Hey, Pretty Girl Club. Welcome back to the Storytime series. In this episode, I'm going to talk about how I became a beluga. And I'm so annoyed because I already recorded this video, but apparently I must have deleted it. So here I am again. But I want to name the top 7 things that contributed to me becoming a beluga. So number 1 is birth control. So I know that a lot of people don't believe that birth control affects weight gain. It actually did affect me. I actually didn't believe it, but even my mom noticed that I randomly started gaining weight. So this is back when I was in my 20s. I was very preoccupied with my relationship.
Well, it sounded like you was at the wall then, because you were in your 20s and you were a beluga and you were on birth control, so you were just letting some guy shoot up the club. And yeah, it sounded like you had hit the wall back then, EU. But let me fast forward it because she was talking about how she was addicted to this fast food and stuff. And 7-Eleven to be exact, but somehow she thinks she can get on her soapbox and start talking about guys who may be out of shape, when all the stats show that unfortunately a lot of Western women, I think over 60% of them are obese. But let's get it.
So when I'm around those types of people or like a toxic workplace, it's definitely going to make me depressed over time. So that's another thing that contributed to me becoming a beluga. I would emotionally eat because I found.
See, like I said, I coined the term emotional beluga because what she's taking these terminologies and trying to misappropriate them to make her feel good. This is like comfort food, right? Just like what she's describing here when she was rating 7-Eleven, rating 7-Eleven like a freaking beluga. You know how we do over here. You know we got to come with some visual aids and some illustrations. Yeah, that's you shopping at your favorite store, the beluga with the cart full. Yeah, that's you.
On comfort in food. So, you know how some people eat when they're stressed out? That's something I used to do. Like when I was at work, if I had a deadline or something and the people at my job were kind of pressuring me, I would just go to 7-Eleven. That's one of my weaknesses, by the way. 7-Eleven also contributed to me being fat because I would eat or I would drink one of the Slurpees every day. You know, the big gulps or like the giant Slurpees? I would drink one of those in the summertime, or like the giant milkshakes and stuff. So 7-Eleven is my weakness. So of course.
Okay, so she's addicted to 7-Eleven. So we got a beluga. This is EU. This is Miss Beauty and Miss all of that. So we have a beluga that's addicted to big gulps and smoothies and raspberry shakes and all this different stuff. But she's sitting up here wanting to clown guys for being overweight when most of the people who are obese, at least percentages, are women. But here she is, a reformed beluga, which she very well could still be one, because like I said, she refuses to confirm or deny how she looks, when in reality, those of us who have never been fat, such as myself. Now, I've had different points in my history where I had more muscles, because I was younger. Like I said, I used to play sports a lot when I was younger. But I've never been fat ever in my life. But what she's proving is that she has the mentality still of a beluga, because even though she's not consuming as much food maybe as she used to, she still has the same need for comfort food, whether it be physical or psychological. But anyway, let's get back to this beluga confession.
Of course, I had the 7-Eleven app. So whenever I could get something free, you know how
God damn, I didn't even know 7-Eleven had an app.
They have the hot bar in 7-Eleven where it's like you can get those little corn dogs, you can get the JoJo's.
Man, she knows all this stuff. Man, she a damn beluga. Let me get my beluga eating the pizza. Here you go, EU. Here you go. Yeah, that's EU right there. But at least she's being honest. At least she's being honest about her belugaism. And yeah, so let's get a little bit more before we get back to the
which are like
other videos,
like the potatoes or like their chicken tenders and stuff. So I would go to 7-Eleven all the time. Sometimes it would be like every single day. Like that would be my breakfast. I would get like their little sandwich where it's like a waffle and then it has an egg in there and it has some sausage and it has like a maple taste. I love 7-Eleven, okay? That is my ratchet side coming out. That is my freaking weakness. It's 7-Eleven. But that is one of the places, that's one of the main stores that also contributed to me becoming a beluga. So I was eating processed ass hot wings and chicken tenders and corn dogs, and I was eating that every day.
So she eating all them hot dogs and chicken tenders. That's why her neck looked like a pack of hot dogs and chicken tenders, and that's why she a chicken head. And man, this is crazy. Let's go.
And sometimes I would get breakfast at 7-Eleven and lunch at 7-Eleven. So if you're getting 2 meals a day, 5 days a week, so that's 10 meals per week at 7-Eleven, do you really think that that's going to be healthy? Not even just for your weight, but for your digestive system and your gut in general. So, you know.
Damn, so you sitting up there eating that garbage every day? That's not sexy. You should have been a bulimic beluga. You should have been throwing all that stuff up if you had to eat it. You should have been a bulimic beluga. But are you trying to tell me that you were sitting up there eating that junk like that? That is crazy. Were you a bloated beluga? I think you were a bloated beluga who should have had bulimia. Yeah, you know how I am with the letters and all that, right? But that is crazy. But yeah, I've seen enough. That's crazy. But this woman has the audacity to sit here and be talking about guys who are way more in shape on average.
Hey, Pretty Girl Club, welcome back to the
Than their female counterparts. That is crazy. But she said can project all of this foolery. Well, let me get back to, you see these pictures keep getting worse though, right? But I think that this is where we were before. But she got the nerve to be talking about obesity when I showed you guys that she herself is the one that was struggling. So once again, this is all a projection. Let's go. And here she was, a bloated beluga.
ingrown hairs on his cheeks. It's looking uneven. The beard is scraggly. It's looking gray, but he's got to keep growing out the beard so he can cover up the double chin. That's what he's doing. So have you ever seen those guys with a gigantic beard? Yeah, they're hiding the double chin. That's what a lot of them are doing. They don't have the same jawline that they used to have in high school when they were on the football team.
Yeah, because women, they always keep their shapes from high school, right? There are more guys who probably maintain their shape since we were in high school than women. I guarantee you, the last school reunion I went to, I think we had a 10-year high school reunion. The guys, a lot of us, we went in there looking pretty much the same. There were a couple guys who were overweight, but I think almost to a person, every woman that was in our class reunion, they were all bigger. Every single last one of them. Now, to be sure, we give some grace to women after they didn't have kids and all of that, but some of these women were unrecognizable because we remember back in the day how they were shaped before. And when we went to that reunion, it's like, who are you? But all of us, a lot of the guys, especially my little crew of people, that I was kicking it with, we pretty much were in the same shape, Yeah, I could probably still now maybe a little taller than where I was in school, but a lot of some of those outfits I could still wear, that I had back then, which is more than I can say for a lot of women. But anyway, let's go.
They don't have the same supermodel look that they used to have in college. Oh no, that jawline is sagging now.
Now those are guys who have not kept themselves up. So we already know, and she's just trying to conflate what's typically the case for women to men. And again, I'm not trying to just go in on the women because, like I said, there are some grace that can be given as women age. We know they put on more weight and all of that. But what I'm saying is when you come out here trying to make a false equivalency, you're going to get this smoke, Joker, because you've already been debunked. Right now, I'm just doing laps around you, but and it may be kind of difficult because you could be a beluga. So, yeah, it may be a little harder to run laps around you. But let's go.
I mean, that's how society views them, because you do start to see a really big difference once a man is about 30 and above. You can tell.
Oh, yeah, because women are, they're the same in their 30s as they were when they were in their 20s. Yeah, okay.
Which ones screwed off in their 20s? Which ones were just working at all the bars? Who was a club promoter in his 20s? That's when you start to see the difference. The guy who was a club promoter in his 20s, yeah, that might have looked cool.
But she keeps just bringing up stuff that has nothing to do with the topic. It's all about choices. And I would expect more from someone who's always talking about beauty and all this stuff. Meanwhile, she was a bubble gut beluga, which is not even sexy. I mean, you're sitting up there eating all that processed garbage. And look, that's one thing that foreign women have on these westernized women, because they don't eat garbage like that. That's why their pHs and everything are a lot better, because they're eating natural fruits and vegetables. They're taking you hiking to all these different places. Oh, you can just eat off the tree and all this type of stuff. And that's what another thing that these women don't understand about why a lot of us like to travel and go to and live in these different countries, because you stay in shape better. I just got through riding my bike earlier, riding uphill, riding over bridges, over lakes and stuff. I enjoy that. I got a nice mountain bike, and I enjoy. I got a couple of electric vehicles too, electric bikes. But I find myself using my manual bike because I like that feeling of, riding up hills and putting force into it, and that's what I enjoy doing. Being physical. So if a guy is doing that, he's gonna stay in shape regardless. And guys, that sedentary lifestyle affects everybody in the West. Women, men, children, everybody. So all she's talking about is basically it's an indictment on Western culture. That's what she's really talking about, which, as I said, applies to everybody. But she's trying to shoehorn the conversation about the wall into it. It's total madness. But let's get a little bit more, and then I'm going to, start wrapping it up. Let's see what we got. Just a couple key points I'm going to make, because we're still going to, for you passport bros, I got you. Because like I say, even though I'm a elder statesman, I don't consider myself a passport bro. That's a younger guy thing, because, we were already traveling before you guys discovered that, quote unquote. But I got you, because she kind of goes in on you guys a little bit. So I got some nice stuff for her on that. But let's go.
Back in college, but maybe in your 30s, maybe if he's 37, 38, and he's still standing outside of a club passing out flyers, he doesn't look as cool anymore. He doesn't.
So again, this is all talking about somebody who's a loser. It doesn't matter what race he is. It doesn't matter whoever it is. Anybody that's doing this stuff that she's talking about. And I don't know where she gets these goddamn pictures. Hey, this is crazy. Some of this shit is unwatchable because of these damn pictures she's using. But let me see where I'm at, because there's a certain... Let me skip to it, because I think I've already dissected this whole point. Because she's just being repetitive and bringing up a bunch of things that have nothing to do with the issue at hand. Because remember, the wall is a biological thing. It has nothing to do with people's life choices. But let's go.
Whenever they make their content, oftentimes there's so much more rage behind their content. Sometimes they'll even come and stalk me over here on my channel.
Okay, now, I don't know if she's referring to over here on the Night Riders, because we have anything but rage. But I think this is the thumbnail she used. So, again, I can always tell when she's trying to address something that we may have said, because she'll use a goofy-ass thumbnail and things like that. And she's claiming that people are going over there stalking her page. And I hope that's none of the Night Riders. I know Commando Spawn, I think he was sometimes lurking over there. But Commando Spawn, you can let me know in the comments or whatever if you've ever gone over there on one of her live streams. I don't even know if she still live streams. But if she... Don't go in her comment sections, guys. So if you're any of the Night Riders, you got an issue, let me know and I'll talk about it. But, I don't want it to be known that we're going around doing that, because that's the reason why I have a policy where I'll even allow them to come over here and come on lives and all that, because we don't have time for that. So I don't know who she's referring to that's going over there stalking her, because I know her and her little creepy articles can't stay themselves away from over here, and that's fine. We invite you to come over here. But I'm not sure who she was referring to. So if it's anybody who's rolling with us over here, you can go over there and watch her and report back and all of that. But you don't have to go over there arguing with her, because that's what I'm over here doing, dissecting her and showing how that's not even a good use of your time, because she's not really standing on anything, to be honest. But let's go.
And then they'll leave long paragraph comments. And it's like, dude, if you would have spent that time actually turning in your essays in college, instead of writing essay comments under my videos, you could have been a doctor by now. You could have actually had a career. So this is when the twinge of regret starts to sink in for those.
So I think now she's in the, let me see. I think now she's in a 25 to 30. I think the 30s range. So it's something in particular I wanted to get to. Yeah, I think I'm going to deal with that little piece where she was going in on the traveling guys. Which again, I don't consider myself a passport bro, but I do nod to them, the younger guys who decided that they are going to see greener pastures. So we do welcome them, even though, back in the day we were traveling for various reasons. It wasn't just for women and so forth. And that's another thing that a lot of these women obviously like to leave out, is that a lot of us had no problems getting women in the States. We just had higher standards, whether it be not just mate selection, but when it came to housing, when it came to land, when it came to peace, when it came to food, when it came to, all these different things that create a better quality of life. That's one of the main reasons why a lot of us not just traveled, but relocated. But let's get some more.
Get hungover, it hits harder. So their lifestyle choices from their 20s start showing. If he's never put on lotion for the past several decades of his life,
So again, she's just talking about guys. I don't know what kind of guys she was having to deal with, but apparently she's coming across a lot of guys who don't know how to use lotion. They're ashy. I don't know. I mean, this says more about her. If these are the types of, if this is her idea about what men are, that they can't even use lotion, then that's some bottom of the barrel right there. I mean, was she getting guys off the street? I don't know, but let's go.
If he used to be known as Tyrone, the ashy one, well, now this guy's got full-blown eczema. This guy has full-blown dry and cracked skin. Number 5, mental health. This is where men's depression or loneliness seems to peak, especially if they lack close friendships. In your 20s, you got a lot of forced friendships. You're still kind of close with people.
Again, she's framing it as if this is something exclusive to men. Men don't need the same social circles. Now, a lot of us, we can have social circles, but we limit our social circles because we know that the larger it is, the more BS you got to put up with. So a lot of us, by choice, we want smaller circles, right? That's the reason why I don't give a damn about having hundreds of thousands of subscribers, even though there are people, and this is just online. In my personal life, obviously my circle is even smaller, but that's women who are more gregarious and they want to have a herd around them. Women are like herd animals. They enjoy a bunch of nonsense and people around them operating in chaos. Men, we don't like that. We prefer to be not necessarily hermits or isolated, but we like to have a smaller circle. So this is not the flex that she thinks it is. But anyway.
Guys, these are the ones that peaked in their 20s. And so maybe they, eventually ran out of money. They had to move back to their hometown or they had to move away. But this is when you see the loneliness, the male loneliness epidemic that they rant about so much, the loneliness epidemic that they caused. That's when you first start to see the mental health effects on these men. So you start to see, wait a minute, who actually was a good friend? Who still has friends in their 30s?
Again, this is overblown. Anybody can experience loneliness or being lonely based on their specific situation, right? This has nothing to do, once again, guys, follow the bouncing ball, has nothing to do with the subject at hand, which is the juxtaposition between women hitting the wall and men hitting the wall, which once again is a biological reality, right? It has nothing to do with any of these things that she's talking about. But I'm just showing you guys this to show you how ridiculous these women are when they try to craft these arguments, all in an attempt to besmirch your image. Remember that, right? Because remember, this is an anti-propaganda channel. That's the reason why I'm even taking the time to dissect this Joker, even though she's been totally disqualified. I already have her in Arkham Asylum, but she's constantly, she didn't even quite break out, but she's sitting in her cell just throwing whatever, old applesauce or whatever against the wall. She just tried to throw things, and she was beating on the cell to get my attention because she saw me jacking up the the cybernetic G. So she, like I said, she didn't just want the attention, she needs the attention. So she'll send out all these different signs that she wants me to dissect her again. So I'm just here to oblige while educating you guys. So that's why I'm even doing it. But let's continue.
So he has no connections left in his 30s. He has no opportunities left. Maybe he was the type of guy who bites the hand that feeds him. So all the women that were around him when he was younger, all those women that were doing his homework for him in college, all those women that...
She must have been one of those women doing homework for some guy. But this is ridiculous. Again, this is all about making the right decisions. And you notice she does not have the opposite of what, the guys who are making the best decisions doing that. If this is a function of biology, then what the guys who don't do these boneheaded things, who are making good decisions, then how come they don't have a wall? As opposed to the women, because when they hit their wall, regardless as to their status, regardless as to what they've accomplished, regardless of their education, the wall is still there. That's the point, because it's a biological thing. I don't care how educated or how much money a woman has. Once she's over 30 and 90% of her eggs are gone, unless she freezes them, they're gone for good, and no amount of money is going to bring them back. Unlike a, quote, man who hits the wall, it looks to me like he has a lot of ways to come back from that. Specifically, if he's in his 30s, or I'm sorry, in his 20s, and he's working his way up. It sounds like those two walls are quite different. Let's go.
Becoming very frustrated with their lack of dating options, because that's when men start to realize, wait a minute, my type doesn't want me. I wanted a classy, educated, beautiful, in shape woman. And it's like, well, sir, you are an uneducated, dusty, out of shape man. So of course you're not.
What is she talking about? Any guys are not that delusional. See, those are women. See, again, everything that she's saying is a projection. Shout out to Oswald Young Lion. Everything she said is a projection. Men intrinsically know if they look like this guy on the screen, he's not going for the supermodel. He's not going for that. He's not delusional like that. That's them. If this guy is a 2 on the scale, he's not going for a 5 or a 6. Meanwhile, you will have a woman who's a 3 or a 4. She will go for a 5 or a 6 equivalent of a man. And they don't even care, even if they're a 4 or a 5, they will go for an 8 or a 9. And unfortunately, those type of guys will still bust down those guys, and those type of women. And that's why I always try to tell you guys, because we've all had women come at us that we know we're on a different scale than them. Whatever rating you want to give yourself versus them, you know that you're not equally, you know they're not on your sexual market value level, right? But they're coming at you. And a lot of guys will take that because that's low-hanging fruit. Why? Because like I said earlier, guys are driven, specifically in their younger years. As we get older and more mature, we don't need it. We turn down women all the time, even though we know, even if a woman is not being overt and coming at us, they'll make themselves available, and we'll just politely decline, right? That comes with maturity. But we've all been in a situation where we've had women who were not equally on our level when it comes to sexual market value, but they had no qualms about coming at you. They're the ones that are delusional. That's why they come with a list of 1,000 things. Meanwhile, they don't fit any of it. And that's the reason why people like Kevin Samuels were coming out trying to warn these women about their ridiculous, quote, standards or expectations. And it's still to no avail. And that's why there's so many female femininity coaches that threw in the towel, because it's women that are so delusional and dislodged from reality in terms of their own sexual market value, that they always want something that they themselves don't even qualify for. So again, yet another projection. But let's get some more.
And so in the 30s, that's when you start to see men transition over into the passport bro culture, because they're like, wait, I need to get a woman who is poorer than me. I need to get a woman who is more underprivileged
so there we go.
Me.
So there we go. That's the part right there, guys. That's what I wanted you guys to hear. So here we go again with this same trope about those of us who, whether traveling or actually live abroad, that we had to go abroad to get abroad because we're so dusty. We're living in our mom's basement. We look like Quasimodo, and you know, the whole nine. We've heard it all before, right? And the only way we could get any type of female attention or anything is to go and get a poor woman. I mean, here we go again. But let's go. I got something real nice for this, fellas. So you're gonna be happy you stayed this long. But let's go.
So oftentimes these are men who, you know, they suck in the American dating market. No American woman with any self-respect wants those men. So that's when you see them like, okay, let me try to target a woman from another country. Maybe she needs a green card, or
here we go with the green card trope. When most of these women who these guys go and whether they get married or to date them, those women don't want to leave their countries. This whole green card stereotype came from the women's side. We've already covered this. Those women who used to go down to Jamaica, get busted down, and those Jamaican guys or the guys in West Africa, Cameroon, or all these Senegal, and there was a lot of these white women and black women too, particularly the black women were going down to Jamaica to get their gallbladders rearranged and all that stuff. They would go down. I'm not talking about surgery either. I'm talking about, you know what I mean. But they would go down there and get their insides rearranged by these guys, and they'd fall in love with these guys to the point, and they're down there jerking his chicken and whatnot. And so they get to the point where they want those guys to come home. That's how you got, what was her name? Was that, they wrote that book, How Stella Got Her Groove Back? Toni Morrison. And the guy turned out to be a bate boy. And then she brought him back, gave him a green card and all, the whole nine. That all came from them. So they are the ones that go and try to wife up or husband up these guys, because it was the guys who would be getting those green cards. A lot of the passport bros, they are not trying to bring those women back to the West. They already know what it is. They don't want those women to be polluted in the septic tank that is the U.S. dating market. So they have enough sense to keep the women where they are. And another thing I want to point out to show EU's hypocrisy is that she's trying to shame these guys by deciding that they're going to just go where they are celebrated and appreciated instead of tolerated. Isn't that the whole ethos that you women claim that you are doing when you either decenter men or you decide to be divestors or whatever? You're just going where you're appreciated. Why are you now having hierarchy thinking and trying to downplay a man for deciding that he's going to go somewhere where he's wanted? Because either way you look at it, no matter how you slice it, you know, like one of those 7-Eleven pizzas that you love so much, no matter how you slice it, even if the guy is a bum and a loser and he's just so unattractive, okay, so if he's rejected from the American market, what is he supposed to do? Just wither on the vine? If he doesn't have any options in America, it sounds like a smart thing to do. If he's some little potbelly pig looking dude and he, you know, 5'4", and he's just totally unattractive to women in the West, maybe he should go to a culture that's not so overtly vain or overtly judgmental about a guy who's under 6 feet. Maybe he could go to a culture where the standard height for a guy is 5 foot, so he's still towering over guys even if he himself is 5'4". Maybe he should go to a culture that doesn't put as much emphasis on what he has as opposed to the content of his character or anything like that. So on the one hand, you're trying to shame a guy for going to a place that he can excel at. Isn't that exercising privilege? Isn't that privilege stacking? Isn't that something that the guy is benefiting from, that he can take himself out of a market that he's not performing well in and go to a market that he is performing in? How are you trying to shame a guy from that? Multinational corporations do that all the time. You know, some of those same corporations that you love to frequent, maybe even like 7-Eleven, if they're not doing well in a particular area or country, guess what they're going to do? Pack up and go to another country. Yeah, it's called outsourcing. So why are you trying to demonize a guy for doing that, EU? And then on the other hand, even if he has all of the qualities that women find attractive, but he still decides, hey, I'm going to go and get the best price. I'm gonna go get more bang for my buck. Yeah, I can stay in the States and I can still get women, I can still do certain things, but over here it's just better. So I deserve better. I'm gonna do better. Isn't that something that you women love to do? Monkey branch to something that's better, even if what you know, in terms of your capabilities, you're perfectly able to get something where you are, but there's something better over there. How are you going to demonize a guy for doing what's in his rational self-interest, and you yourself have a whole platform based on that whole premise? So you see the hypocrisy. You see how I'm able to dissect your logic using even your own stated goals about privileges and all of this type of stuff. Meanwhile, you're trying to demonize a guy who's trying to exercise his privilege. Yeah, if he can go into another country and benefit from that, then that's what he should do. But anyway, guys, look at the hypocrisy. But let's get some more.
You know, she see some of them start to flee the country because they're like, look, I'm failing miserably in the American economy.
Okay, so she's taking that as fleeing the country because someone's failing. Okay, I don't know how much traveling internationally this woman has done, but someone who's able to just uproot and go to an entirely different country, EU, again, I'm not sure how well traveled you are, but it doesn't come very cheap, especially depending on if you did like what some of us did, where we actually uprooted and we had assets, and there was a time that I was actually paying for different properties on different continents, you know, when I was in the process. Because, you know, if you're going to do it the right way, you're not just going to drop everything and move. Now, if you are the type of guy who doesn't have anything to lose, and it kind of goes back to my original point, then yeah, you should just kind of drop everything and leave. But if you are well established like some of us were, and then you decide that you're going to incrementally do it, and in some cases you're paying for 2 different households or whatever, you got to have some coin to do that, EU. Not to mention the fact that when you go to these different countries, because she's going to say something really idiotic a little later. I don't know if I'm going to get to it, but she's going to say something to the effect of, well, I'm going to go to a place that doesn't have any standards. These countries have standards, especially if you're trying to live in these other countries. You have to literally show bank accounts and statements and investments or whatever to show that you won't be living off the public dole in these countries, and that you have the wherewithal to stay there, especially if you're trying to get a long-term visa. All of my real ones know what I'm talking about. Those of you who not just are traveling for leisure, but you've actually moved to another country, you know damn well that that's, you know, one of the requirements as part of your visa process. You have to show that you're able to live, you have an income, and that you have enough assets to live in these countries. So again, she has no idea what she's talking about. It's the same old trope about only the losers are the ones that are traveling. Meanwhile, the guys who are traveling and have the wherewithal to travel are the very same guys who are rejecting them that they wish they could have, but they just moved on. And again, I got something for you guys. We're going to hear from even their own mouth. So I'm going to have to play a classic clip that proves that. So I'm going to get to that shortly because, like I said, we're going to be, let me see, where we at? Yeah, I don't have too much longer to go. Maybe another 15, 20 minutes. And then we're going to be wrapping it up. I didn't want this video to go too long. But I know you guys would agree this is a power-packed presentation, because I had to hit her hard because it's been a while. Like I said, I think it's been, you know, since last year that I really went in on her directly. But yeah, so this was a long time coming, and I know you guys love when I go in on this Joker. But we got some more. So let's go.
The American economy was not set up for me. I don't have the education. I don't have the credentials. I don't have the phenotype. I don't have the looks. I don't have the skin color. I don't have the race. You know, this is when men start realizing how many isms they are suffering from. They start learning about, you know, things that are going on in America. So some of them will actually get up and leave. They will eliminate themselves from the United States dating market. And they'll be like, fuck it, I got to go to a third world country now where I actually have some status, because I don't have any status here. I'm a loser here. So this is where you see some.
Okay, so once again, if the guy is a loser, so he's a bum, you know, he has nothing going for him, but yet he still can cobble together enough money to uproot his entire life and move to a whole other country. So we're just going to, you know, gloss over that fact right there. But let's just say what you're saying is correct, EU, and that he's some loser, right? So again, what do you have against a guy privilege stacking, saying, hey, I'm not getting the desired result here, but over here, hey, I got a shot. There's better business opportunities, there's better networking, there's so many better things that I could do over here. So I'm just gonna take my business elsewhere. So what possibly could you have a problem with when it comes to that? That sounds like the type of stuff that you tell your exoticals to do. So why is it something that's supposed to be something of a shame for a guy to do it? You know why, guys? Because this is just a shaming tactic. It's a BS shaming tactic that falls flat because it runs counter to everything that she tries to present on her platform. You damn right. If a guy's a loser or whatever, he's not being able to get the desired result, he should go somewhere where he's, once again, celebrated and not tolerated. But let's go.
Some of them uprooting their lives. They have to just go ahead and leave because they can't make it. Basically, they were used to being a big fish in a small pond. And by the time he hits the 30s, he thought he was hot shit in his 20s. Maybe he was. Maybe he was hot shit. But then, that the fat started coming on, that jawline started getting bigger and bigger. He started getting double chins and triple chins and quadruple chins. The hair started graying. The hairline went away. Teeth started falling out because he never took care of his cavities. He never went to the dentist in his teens and 20s. So now it's catching up with him. Okay. Never went to the doctor. Now he's got knee problems.
Okay, so she's just talking about a guy who didn't take care of himself. But guess what? When you go to those other countries, the health care is top of the line. Some of these countries get better health care and more affordable health care than America. So you're gonna fault a guy for going to a place to get his raggedy, crusty teeth fixed, to get his knees that are bad and his backbone is all out of joint. So you don't think he should go to these different countries and get the requisite amount of work done? Isn't that something that you advocate? You advocate jumping in a whole vat of Ace chemicals and bleach just to try to live out your fantasies, but you got a problem with a guy who decides he's going to go to a different country to kind of manifest the type of life he wants to live. Look at the hypocrisy, but let's go.
So he went from being a young man with potential to just being a man. So once these men hit the 30s decade, women are no longer looking at him for his potential. Like, oh, he's got so much talent. He's got so many dreams. Oh, he's such...
And you know what's so weird about this? She's making it seem as though the only basis by which a guy would want to uproot and improve his life is only solely based on women. Contrary to what you might not think, EU, a lot of guys don't center women like that. The ones that do, we have a name for them. They are called simps. Those are the guys who center women and make all these type of life decisions based on women solely. Some of us, I would say a good number of us, specifically the Night Riders, those who tune in over here, we have a whole different set of calculus when it comes to the way we move. Specifically as Sigma men, right? And if you don't know what a Sigma man is, look it up. Women are only one part of the calculus. We are looking at a whole host of things. We're looking at geopolitical situations. We're looking at economics. We're looking at all of the different things, the local governments. We're looking at local economies. We're looking at business opportunities. We're looking at language barriers. We're looking at a whole lot of things. We're juxtaposing that to the life in America that we can live. And some of us actually, believe it or not, EU, we actually will go back and forth between, like, before we up and move, we will stay time in America and then we'll live abroad and it will come back and then we'll just decide, we'll make an apples to apples comparison and will strategically move predicated on a host of metrics outside of a female. I know it's shocking to you, but yeah, we actually can think beyond our dicks and find out that, yeah, over here, there's much better opportunity. There's peace. There's harmony. I like the culture. I like the food. Oh, and by the way, they got some beautiful women. Even though if the women were not here, I would still move. Yeah, some of us calculate things like that. But let's go.
No, that shit doesn't fly once the man is in his 30s. Because women are like, wait a minute, you've had 35 years to start that business you've been talking about since you were a teenager? Where is it? In the 30s, that's when people start looking for the actual results. That's when these men are applying for jobs and the company is saying, wait a minute, where's your experience? Oh, you don't have any. Where are your credentials? Oh, you don't have any. So that's when, it starts.
So again, this is all stuff that has nothing to do with the topic, because remember, I'm going to have to keep bringing you back to that. It only has to do with people who are making poor decisions, who made bad choices and all of that, and that goes for anybody. It has nothing to do with the comparison between women hitting the wall and men hitting the wall. This is ridiculous. Let's go. Okay, hold on.
The entire country, because they're like, oh shit, let me just go to a country where you don't have to have any credentials.
Yeah, that's that part. So she said you go to a country that you don't have to have any credentials. What country is that, EU? Since you know so goddamn much, what country can you go to that you can just go over the border? Oh, that might be the United States right there, because the United States, and they've been cracking down now. Yeah, so finally, yeah, that was the only instance where there was not credentials when illegals were crossing over the border, but even that's starting to be rectified. But yeah, most of the countries that you go to, especially some of the ones that a lot of us who, have a couple of nickels to rub it together, you do have a lot of requirements to go and specifically live in certain countries. So point me in the direction of a country that doesn't have credentials, or that you could just go in and live the type of lifestyle I want to live, and I'm on the next thing smoking to get there. But I'm pretty happy where I am, so it'll be kind of hard. It'll be a hard sell, but I'll still be interested from an academic standpoint of knowing where you're getting your data from. But let's continue.
Now let's talk about the 40s, the midlife awakening or crisis. There's a reason why they talk about the midlife crisis.
Okay, so you know what? I know I've been jumping around. I want to get to a part. It was that one part she even said herself, oh, it's getting hard for her to take it serious, because she knows she was BS, and a lot of what she was saying was BS and garbage. But I'm going to dip into this, the passport bro thing for a minute, because it is so hilarious, some of the things that she's saying. And rather than me, who's, on record for various reasons saying that I'm not a passport bro, because number one, I don't live in, I'm not just traveling, I actually live in a different place. But again, just as fellow travelers, we can appreciate that, right? We can appreciate guys who are traveling. However, what she is saying is that guys who travel are just these losers and whatnot, and guys, when they reach a certain age, they just fall off, or if they're young, they already hit the wall. So I first of all, I guess she has a problem with the wall, but in China, they have a term called Xingyu, which is leftover women. So maybe she would prefer that. So this is a global thing. This isn't just to do with Western culture. This is something the world over. So this article right here talks about Xingyu, because since she obviously has some experience with Asians, apparently, she needs to understand that this is not something unique, and that cultures, some are even more stringent, because in China it says Xingyu means leftover women. It's a derogatory term pertaining to women in China who are over the age of 27 and unmarried. So according to the Chinese standard EU, you and women like you are leftovers. So I don't know about you, but hitting the wall sounds a lot better than being a leftover woman. So I'm just saying. But at any rate, that is something that is going on internationally. Another thing I wanted to point out was at one point EU was going in on guys who are making less than six figures, and some of us have been privileged enough to make over six figures and be over 6 feet and all that, but we understand that that's kind of rare, and that 85% of guys don't make six figures. But again, there's nothing wrong with being average, and a lot of these women like EU and cybernetic G, they themselves are average across the board, but they try to make it seem as though guys, some of you guys may be truck drivers or bus drivers or whatever, you're making 40, 50, $60,000 a year. That is a good living by world standards. So these women in the West are so jaded and delusional, they think that everybody has to be making six figures. And quiet as it's kept, unless you got a side hustle, even if you're making working a job that somehow you can make that, if it's going to be something that you're doing on a consistent basis, a lot of times you have to be hustling and things like that. That's extra stuff. That's like extracurricular stuff. But these women, in their assessments, they only can process things in the extreme. They don't like things that are just normal and regular, even though the income that Americans on average make is exceptional by world standards. Here's the proof. I asked ChatGPT, since everybody wants to use ChatGPT now. I think after the cyborg and I had our little, back and forth when it came to that. So I pulled up ChatGPT and I asked, what is the average world income? And it says that the average world income, and this is probably the first time you guys have seen that, because I don't think anybody else has pulled this stat that I'm aware of, but it can vary depending on how it's calculated, the mean versus the median, and specific methodology used. However, one common measure is gross national income, or GNI, per capita, which adjusts for differences in living costs and the income distribution. Based on recent data from the World Bank and International Monetary Fund, global GNI per capita nominal is around $11,000 to $12,000 US dollars, and that's as of between 2003 and 2004. So that's pretty recent data compilation. So that's the average for the world. So if you're a guy in the States and you're making 50,000, on a global scale, you're already in the top 10%. So for these women to be, or even if you're making 30,000 or whatever. So that's how you really need to look at things, because it's exceptional, even though some women even have the nerve to say, 100,000 or even 200,000 ain't enough. You got to make $500,000. I mean, well, what are you talking about? And this woman already a 3-time baby mama. It's crazy. But anyway, this is the type of perspective those of us who have a global perspective look at. We look at the world. And this is what it is for the world, GNI. And then, however, the median is typically much lower than the average, because if you know statistics, you understand there's a difference between the average and the median, right? So you have to take out the extremes to get the median. It says that the average can be skewed by very high incomes in wealthier countries. Exactly. So it says the median GNI per capita is closer to 4,000 to 5,000 USD. That's crazy, but that's what the world is. So if you're making $40,000, $50,000 a year, you're making 10 times the global mean. But yet these women are trying to frame it as if you're a failure just because you're not making six figures, when six figures is rare for anybody on a global scale. And those of us who, like I said, who've had a modicum of success where we've been able to pull those kind of numbers, we understand the rarity and the blessing it is, especially if you're well traveled, because you see what real poverty is. But a lot of these women, that's part of their problem. They've never seen real poverty. And they'll be sitting up here demonizing guys who look average, but they're still in the top 10% of the world. And another thing the EU did was she was sitting up there trying to claim that a guy hit the wall in his 20s. So let me show you an example of some guys that she may have said hit the wall. So these guys right here, you know these little geeky looking guys right here, Bill Gates and Paul Allen. This was them in 1975. So they were working out of their garage. So according to EU, these guys would have been at the wall. You know, when they're in their 20s, you know, broke or whatever. They don't look like they were really getting their jollies off too often on those late Saturday nights. It looks like they were somewhere in a garage tinkering with some software, as opposed to having a nice stable of women. They don't seem like those type of guys. So in the EU's assessment, I think they would have been at the wall. But I think it goes without saying that these guys went on to make something of themselves, right? But I just wanted to show you guys that, to let you know. Another thing she was talking about were guys living off the grid. I think she's going to cover it when she got to the 40s. Let me see if I get to that part. Because like I said, I'm just going to kind of rush through some things, because we're going to be wrapping up. But I just had to hit these points before I get into the passport thing.
Anymore. That's another thing. The trends change. So him being a thug, that might have been cute when he was 18, him being a bad boy.
Yeah, but why was it cute? Because the women made it cute. That's the reason. But anyway, it's just so much I could dissect here. It's so much, but for the sake of time, hold on.
They're divorced by now. Some men will have gone through several divorces by this point, because you're in the 40s decade. So
yeah, because women don't be going through divorces. Yeah, women, yeah, they don't get divorced.
What a failure they've been. I've seen a lot of men in their 40s where maybe they have a kid or something, and he starts to realize, oh, wait a minute, I'm a dusty father. I'm a bad father.
Yeah, because there's no dusty mothers out there, So again, everything that she's saying is nothing more than a projection.
On things. So he realizes, oh my God, I never traveled the world. I never got to start my business. I never purchased the properties I wanted to purchase. This is not where I envisioned myself at 49 years old. I thought I'd be rich by now. I thought I'd have a wife by now. I thought that I would still have my hair.
Oh, you should go with the hair again. It's not the flex you think it is. Some of us are fortunate enough to still have hair, but guys who have thinning hair or whatnot, they don't mind being bald. It has nothing to do with it. A lot of guys, unless they're ultra vain or something, guys don't really care. It's not the insult you think it is. And as far as gray and all that, now again, I've been told that I look a lot younger because I don't even have a lot of gray. I got a couple strands, and I got a couple strands in my beard, but you can barely see it unless you're really, really close. And I keep everything well groomed, but we don't care about that. If anything, it makes us look more distinguished. So nothing to what she's saying is even relevant.
So some of these men, they will try to reclaim their youth. That's another reason why you'll see a lot of men in their 40s coming after you if you are a younger woman, maybe in your 20s, 30s.
Reclaim their youth. Yeah, because women are out here getting BBLs and all this other stuff to try to reclaim their youth, right? This is insane. And they're going through way more extremes than what guys do. A guy may go out and buy a motorcycle or do something like that, but we ain't getting no surgical enhancements to try to recapture our youth, right? Well, let's go.
With his gut. He's got IBS. He's got all these different things going on. His teeth are...
So we already talked about how she's the resident bubble gut beluga, but then she got the nerve to be going in on these guys. It's crazy.
He feels like shit because he essentially has to shrink his child's dreams.
Okay, so she's just going on and on. But I want to get back to this piece about the passport bros, because like I said, I think that's the point I'm going to end on, because I want her to understand that the psychological beluga comfort food that she wants is just empty calories, because there's no way that the guys that the majority of the guys those of us who travel are these broke, dusty, can't get women type guys. And I'm just gonna address this because it needs to be addressed. And the bottom line is the women who decide that they are going to go and kind of investigate for themselves. Look what they came up with. And some of you guys will remember this video, and it's not the only one, but I think this is the classic one that I think a lot of women didn't like, because this woman told the truth. She went to Colombia and saw some of you Colombia bros that were down there, and she could not believe what she saw, because she wanted to believe, like EU, that all of you were so unattractive and whatnot. So I'm gonna play this quick video, and we're gonna take it from there. So let's get it. Hold on. Let me get to this part.
Full of black men traveling.
Yeah, and shout out to this content creator for posting this. But just listen to this, guys in EU. I know a lot of you guys, we've covered this clip before, but I think it's very appropriate based on this. You heard all the garbage that EU said. And remember, we can't even confirm or verify whether or not EU has even left the country yet. So she has no credibility. in terms of her assessment of the guys who are going abroad. This woman has a lot of credibility because she's actually there looking with her own eyes. She has no vested interest to try to make passport bros look good. In fact, she's still going to be trying to throw shade if you listen close enough, but she had to be honest about what she saw. And I think as part of her business, she actually travels. But just listen to what this woman says and just oppose that to what the EU, the Joker, said. But let's go.
Much explained everything.
If you watched my last video, I was speaking to the amount of black men that are currently in Cartagena. So just to be clear, what made this very interesting to me, and this is not my first time in Cartagena. However, my first time in Cartagena was during the pandemic, and so it just wasn't nearly as busy. So this was my first time experiencing Colombia, I think in a more realistic form of just what, the average flight consists of. And it was a extremely large amount of black men. And for reference, I'm a full-time travel content creator, which means...
Now, I'm not sure if that was her caption, but I'm going to read that here. This caption says, there's clearly a subculture of passport bros that have no issue dating the women they want in the U.S. and also enjoy something exotic as well. Exactly. And that's the truth for a lot of us. And a lot of us, like I said, back in the day when we were traveling, before there was a such thing as passport bros, I was traveling with guys, and we have our little meetups, and guys, there are doctors. In fact, that's how I found my dentist, because I had a dentist that was decent before, but this was a bro that, we met going, traveling. He was a cool dude, and he actually didn't live too far from me, and that's what made us hit it off. And, he became my dentist. He's a very good dentist, man. He did some very good cleanings and stuff for me and everything. So he was very cool, but professional guys, all kind of guys you can network with, and not just guys from the States, but I met guys that were, from different countries, whether it be from, Europe, UK, brothers coming from, even Africa and so forth. So it was a cool thing. And we were all fly. We had our thing, dressing nice, smelling good, man, please. We have a VIP section, chilling, women all around us. Look like we some damn sultans or some kings or something, because we got so many women gravitating around us. But anyway, those are the good old days. Don't get me to reminiscing. But listen to what she got to say. Let's go.
I'm a full-time travel content creator, which means I am traveling all around the world, often on flights all the time. And I can honestly...
Okay, and look at here. And this was a reply. Someone said, those aren't the ones I look for. Those are the ones that can't afford to date here. So those are the ones that can't travel are the ones that can't afford to date. The ones that can travel are the ones that could, but they just taking their money elsewhere. Let's go.
Say that it is very rare for me to see a large number of black men on a flight that I'm on. It is very, 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 very rare. So
yeah, because it's mostly white guys who are traveling because remember, it wasn't an issue, back in the day when it was mostly white guys doing, but now you're starting to see more of an influx with specific countries. Now, some of us like going off the beaten path, but a lot of the passport bros, they enjoy going to maybe the same 5 countries, like DR, Brazil, Colombia, wherever they like to. I think I did a list before the top, Thailand or whatever. So they like going to those places, right? So that's what she's talking about. So as a travel blogger or whatever she does, she's probably going to a lot of places that the passport bros don't go to, but she just so happened to go to a place that they do frequent, was Colombia, and this was her take.
Arrive and have a flight full of men, but also to see other flights full of men. And the customs line was crazy long. So when I say that there were black men everywhere, I literally mean there were black men everywhere. But what was the most jarring to me is the realization that I think there's a lot of discourse on the internet, and there's a lot of people that are like, oh, it's just dusties, it's just broke men.
Yeah, sounds like EU, right? And look what this caption, I think she maybe did this. She said these men were fine. So EU, this is an eyewitness account. So she's body bags you. So again, like I said, I don't even have to do much to dissect someone like EU, because I could go into granular detail, but it's not even necessary. I could just use unbiased data or eyewitness accounts, and she is totally debunking, because she has 10 times the credibility as EU, because we can see her. She's probably a damn exotical if you look at her, But the bottom line is she was over there. She said these guys were not dusty. They were good looking. I think at one point she's even going to say they had good luggage. Yeah, a lot of us, we enjoy having good luggage too. But anyway, let's go.
It's just men that other women wouldn't date.
It's crazy how these men can't even travel without being called names. Yeah, but it doesn't matter what these women think of these men. These men are doing what's best for them, and they are out enjoying their lives. These women know these men are pretty much well off. They just, just want to be negative, and they hate the fact that these guys turn their back on them.
Yep, I think the guy hit the nail on the head with that one. That was the uploader, his commentary. But yeah, so yeah, that's pretty much, we know what it is, and the EU does too. She's just trying to gaslight and try to shame. We know what it is. We see through it. But again, I'm doing this just to put it on the record in case some of some of you younger guys, or you guys that may not be familiar with some of these tactics, you can come over here to the Night Riders and you can see a full dissection of this foolery, because even if some of those talking points, some of these same goofy bras run around regurgitating it, then you are armed with the rebuttals. That's another reason why I do this as well. But let's go.
I saw lots of very attractive men. I saw lots of men who looked like they had means.
She might have saw some of you Night Riders over there, but let's go.
They looked like they had their stuff together. They were dressed well. They had good luggage. Like these were not men that you're just like, oh, girl, nobody wants them.
And let me tell you something, and a lot of my fellow travelers know this as well. For all the garbage these American women talk, if you are actually dating, we ain't talking about just going over there tricking, because just like in the United States, it's the same thing. If you want to go somewhere and trick off, you can do that. If you go to Las Vegas or Miami, or hell, stay in your own city or whatever, you just try to have a pay for play thing. Yeah, you could do that in the States, but just like any other country, there's red light districts and all that. But if you actually are trying to have a serious relationship or date women in these other countries, they have even higher standards than a lot of these women, because a lot of these women, you can't be no damn thug and all the bummy type of dude. A lot of these women, they very much so are into your aesthetic. I'm talking about the actual women. I ain't talking about the 304s that you're going to find on a beach somewhere. I'm talking about if you actually are going up the social chain and you're actually socializing, whether you're trying to do business or you're trying to meet people, you're trying to learn the language, or, socializing, right? These women pay very close attention. They looking at your shoes, they looking at how you smell and all this, and that they have high standards, because they recognize if you're wearing certain scents, and even if it's an expensive thing or whatever, they know what you're, they're like, oh, that smells like this, or they're complimenting you on that, or they know what type of brand shirt you're wearing, or things like that. They're very in tune with. Now, obviously, it varies from culture to culture, but it's amazing to me that these women like EU, these psychological belugas, they want to have the comfort food of thinking that all of these are just dirty foot women who try to get a green card. Meanwhile, a lot of these women are stunning. In fact, EU, probably 90% of the photos that you use in your little Windows Movie Maker reels that you use when you're making your videos, I bet 80 or 90% of them are foreign women. Those women, those models that you're using. In fact, some of the passport bros or the Night Riders have probably taken some of those pictures of the women that you're using, and they're like, okay, after the photo shoot, let's go chill after that. I mean, one time, I'll say this quick story. I had first started, this was back in the day, I was working on a project, and I had this distribution deal. I got the rights to distribute certain clothing because I was building a little brand that I was working on. And I was designing like a logo, and I was testing it out. I was on certain clothing and things like that. It was just something I was doing on the side, experimenting. And I happened to be traveling in this particular country, and I was kicking it with this particular woman, and she had model looks, right? And so I was like, yo, why don't you model this for me? She's like, sure. And it was no problem. And she was just modeling. I was just taking pictures, and I was having her model certain things. And that was just one of the perks, right? She wasn't tripping. And yeah, a lot of those pictures that you're using, EU, you'll be surprised where they come from. It may be just been a passport bro that took those pictures. You ever thought of that? And some of them same women that you're gloating about as an exotical, those are women that the passport bros would be kicking it with and taking those pictures. So yeah, I just thought I'd give you some food for thought, and not that kind of processed food you like either. But let's go.
And so for me, the video really just came from the actual shock of, oh, y'all really be outside with it. Y'all are really coming to Colombia, and this is the type of time that you're on. And I say that because I didn't just see men like, okay, cool, like you're going to Colombia with your homeboys. What was the most shocking to me as I was waiting for my Uber, there were women in club dresses picking up men, and the time was very much like, oh, you've been here before.
So wait a minute. So it ain't just the men going up there picking up women, the women picking up men. And oh yes, I know some of you guys have experienced that too. You could be somewhere just chilling. But I guess those particular passport bros, they already had to hook up. There was probably somebody they were dating. And yeah, things like that happen. You do not have to have a hard time going over there trying to buy nobody's love. If you're keeping yourself in shape, it goes a long way. Now even the fat, pale, white bald guys or whatever, a lot of those women, that's their stereotype of a tourist. So when you go over there and you're clean cut and you're smelling good, you're tall or whatever, like some of us just, we're naturally getting a lot of attention anyway. So we're not tripping. So it's crazy that these women think that somehow you're just going over there waving cash when it's easy to get in situations like what she's talking about. I've been in situations where you get off the plane or whatever, and the cab driver is trying to hook you up with his daughter because he's like, her prospects in that particular country. Some of you guys have experienced that, whether you're in Africa or Asia or whatever, and you can easily look like you could fit into the family. They will make their proposition right there. They'll be like, because they know you are probably better off than a lot of the guys that she's going to get. And his, daughter is probably in school. She's educated. She ain't out there on the strip. She just wants to be a wife. And they will look at you and try to offer you that. I've been in those situations. So it's crazy. And for EU and the rest of these women, they don't know the half of it. They just want to take this time to have some type of psychological comfort food, and it just ain't working because I'm here to bust their bubble. But anyway, let's get it.
But it's your homeboy's first time, and she brought somebody for him, and that had me like, oh, okay. And I see.
So she was paying attention to everything. So that's a lot of watching she was doing. So guys, y'all need to watch y'all back. So if you see some woman looking at you pretty hard, it might be a B-dub from America. It might be EU. She might go over there, in her little Joker disguise, trying to see what's going on. But anyway, let's go.
There's a lot of commentary about what Black women look like or people's shapes and sizes. And yes, like some of the Colombian women that I've seen are beautiful, and some of them are mid and some of them are not.
Yeah, just like anywhere else. But what's a 5 in Colombia, it's probably a damn 9 in America. That's the only difference. Yeah, let's go.
And I think women all over the world look different ways and have different body types. And so it's super fascinating to me, the energy that is just rooted in, oh, well, the reason why Black men are going to Colombia is because Black women are not desirable. That's wild and egregious.
Okay, so now she just going off, because she's upset because, like I said, they gotta throw a little shade. She's telling the truth, at least about the the first part of what she's saying. But of course, she's gonna have to throw a little shade in there with that. But let's get it.
Ain't nobody got time for that. But also too, I will say, as a woman who's been in Colombia, I also feel like the energy of men here is just predatory. I was at dinner last night, and a table full of men came up to myself and the 2 girls that I was having dinner with.
Now, these men she was talking about, these are foreign men. These ain't Black men, by the way. So I'm going to let her finish cooking, but she's talking about some other type of men. But watch this.
And the energy was very much like, what's up with it? Come through. We got a boat tomorrow. And these weren't Black men. These were men from Mexico.
Yeah, the type of men that they always trying to divest to, like EU with her, I guess she was with a Filipino guy or whatever. But it's amazing. Those guys are the ones that be in these countries, during the, they be, you ever heard of dirty macking? They be dirty tricking, they be over there doing all kind of stuff, right? And a lot of us, we don't have to do that. You know, we get a lot of love wherever we go, and it's crazy. And I think that's why a lot of these women be hating as well, because they don't get that same type of attention when they go overseas. And you ought to be thanking me, EU, because I'm giving you a perspective in a world that you knew nothing about, and you were just there in your own little four walls, dreaming about waffle sandwiches from 7-Eleven, and getting your little beluga bubble guts going, and that's what you were doing. So I'm exposing you to a whole nother world. Because meanwhile, you over here thinking about a big gulp and a Slurpee and all this type of stuff, and you probably never even left the country because you can't find your way outside of a 7-Eleven big gulp, and you just that little beluga that's over there stuck inside of a big gulp from 7-Eleven. And I'm exposing you to a whole other world, EU. So again, you should be thanking me. You're welcome. Let's go.
Men from North Carolina who were white men, and men from other parts of South America. And the energy was very much just like, we're here for a good time, not a long time. And I feel like, that is the energy of men traveling to Colombia. And what's even more interesting is that all the black men that I saw at the airport, I ain't seen none of them in the streets. And I would only assume that's because they laying down somewhere.
I don't know. It sounded like she was kind of hating a bit towards the end.
Yeah, she was. I mean, what else she gonna say? But at least she was honest about what she saw, unlike people like EU and Cybernetic G and the rest of these women who just want to be delusional. And it's unfortunate, but again, we're just here to let them know what's up. But let's go.
It's like, are you praising or are you supporting the movement? But it's like towards the end, she threw a little shade in there. But I like the fact that she said that it's white men and, men of the Colombia too, that's approaching women a certain way. But Colombia is a more Las Vegas, Miami type of city.
Yeah, that's the point. You can get all of this type of stuff in America. It just depends on the guy and what he wants. Like if he can go to Vegas and some of us did that even before I started traveling internationally back in the day. I spent a lot of time on the West Coast. I used to be kicking it out there a lot, in LA and places like that, because I had a friend that lived out there, him and his wife, and I met celebrities, used to be having a lot of good fun. But one thing that I like to do was go to warmer climates, because I'm, where I'm originally from, in the Midwest, is obviously freezing in the winter. So when I would take my little time off, I say I want to exchange this snow for some sand, right? So for a while I was going to warmer places in the States. I would go to Vegas, I would go to Cali, East Coast, whatever. But eventually the natural progression is to go to another country, right? And before we wrap up, let me let the passport bros speak for themselves. And one that's of note, and I'm not even sure if he's still even a passport bro, but Austin Holloman, and shout out to him. I think he right now lives abroad, because I haven't been following what he's been doing, but I think I've seen some things come up over the feed that I believe he's in Africa, Kenya or something, but I'm not sure if he's still. But I think I saw where he's basically happy there, so I'm sure he's still there. But this is some of his older videos, and I want to, because how I like to reinforce the point, and I want you to listen. I think this is one of his first videos where you could just kind of hear it from their mouth as to why guys are leaving EU, as opposed to you having your own conjecture. And he's kind of going to kill two birds with one stone, because he's going to talk about one of the reasons he left. It wasn't because he couldn't get a woman. This Austin Holloman. It wasn't because of that. He noticed that there was a huge difference in the types of women he was running into, and he happens to touch on the whole idea of hygiene as well. So you notice how I connected the dot from the whole question of hygiene, how EG was trying to say these men are the ones with the hygiene problem. Well, let's take a look at what Austin Holloman has to say about that. And again, I just think it's good for them to speak for themselves. These younger guys, these younger, we kind of let them pick up the mantle and pass the baton to them. So this is in his own words. So let's get it.
Guys, look, stop. I'm just going to go ahead and say this, because I've had enough of this shit, reading the comments. and just talking and seeing that nobody's gonna change, nobody's even gonna get the message. Stop dating women in the United States altogether. I know I said stop, don't marry a woman. Don't even fuck with them at all now, okay? Because the thing is, nobody's gonna change, right? Nobody's even gonna try to compromise, okay? They think that you want to control them because you ask them to sweep the fucking floor in the same house that they fucking live in. And at the end of the day, I was told that, hey, Austin, you're just going through a phase. But let me ask you this. What are you getting out of dating a woman from the United States? You go to these other countries, you experience these women that treat you like you are somebody.
Okay, so you notice he's talking about treatment. He's not saying he can't get a woman in the States. He's not saying because he's too broke or he's not. He's talking about the difference in quality. And this happened, and that's why some of us older guys, we like seeing these younger guys remind us of ourselves when we were their age, because we remember the first time we experienced a whole different culture. And that's the other thing I want to point out to EU. Why are you shaming guys for being multicultural? You're Little Miss Multicultural, even though it's not verified, because again, you haven't even shown yourself, or even though we know how you look. But again, we got to play around, as if we don't know who we're dealing with. But why are you so anti-cultural as it pertains to the passport bros, and you want to demonize them for the same thing that you claim you're about, which is being multicultural? He's been to about 5 or 6 different countries. A lot of the other passport bros, that's multicultural. And you are one who calls yourself championing this particular thing. But meanwhile, you're trying to find fault with guys who are experiencing the same thing that you try to claim that you are promoting. Very interesting. But let's go.
Like a real human, to be honest. And then you come back here. Man, I came back here and I'm like, motherfucker, I'll just wait to have sex again when I get out of the country.
Okay, so that's another thing people don't talk about. And some of us have done that too. But once you go and experience certain things, you're like, you know what, I'm good. I'm going to wait. That's why guys go into monk mode and stack their bread. And meanwhile, people like EU and cybernetic G, they will sit up there and see, they're incels. No, that's not called an incel. That's called voluntarily celibate. Not involuntarily, voluntarily. He's saying, listen, the experiences are so bad in the States, I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait months, stack my bread and focus. I'm going to take that energy and build something else, make enough bread, and then I'm going to take care of that when I get overseas. Guys are actually doing that. And that's why these women are confused and all over TikTok crying and slobbering, because men are not approaching them, because they're doing what he's saying right here. That's the part of the game they don't understand, that guys can do that. We can actually do that. We can actually go into monk mode. And as a guy, if you've never gone into monk mode, then I don't think you've accomplished much, because at some point, depending on what you're into, you may need to study and do something. You have to be focused. Yeah, at some point in your life, men, you should have gone into monk mode. But anyway, in the case of what Austin is saying, he's looking at it from the standpoint of conserving his resources and his time and his libido until he can do it in a place where it really gives him the optimum experience. So that's a very good strategy, and that's what a lot of these guys are doing, and that's the reason why there's so much of an outcry with these women, contrary to what EU is saying, and these women are not being approached. But let's get it.
I just got an interview. The dude asked me if I met a good chick here in the United States, would it change my mind? To be honest with you, knowing me, I'm not even gonna give it a shot. It's a waste of time. Because now if I go on a date, every time I spend money in the United States, I think about how much would it have been in Brazil and how much fucking money am I wasting.
But again, this was back in the day when he was enamored with Brazil. But again, I think he's since moved on to Kenya. But the same thing still applies. He's juxtaposing it to America, and his conclusion was there's no competition. It had nothing to do with his being dusty or whatever. It just, he saw a better situation and he decided to go with that. Like so many of us did the same thing. But let's continue.
I go to Austin, Texas. I love Austin, Texas. I go over there to hang out for 3 days. That money it costs me to hang out in Austin for 3 days pays for 2 months in fucking Colombia. Why the fuck would I date over here in the United States? First, you gonna spend all your money here. And then you gonna get a motherfucker that can't even, her pH off.
God damn, there you have it. So EU, here you go. This is from the out of the mouth of babes, young men. That's what they're saying. And I think he's Gen Z or millennial. I'm not sure, but he's saying it right there. A lot of these younger guys are saying it. So EU, what you need to be doing is teaching these younger women to take care of that problem, because this is a reoccurring thing. Like I said, we had even none other than the cookie monster, Umar Johnson himself, complaining about it. And you know that's a goddamn shame if the cookie monster is even complaining about it. So a lot of these Western women, unfortunately, this is your reputation. And this is one of the reasons why young men like him, they've had enough. And they said, listen, they're better off dating abroad. But let's go.
And don't give me that bullshit if I'm picking the wrong one. All y'all pH off damn near.
Damn. So he said damn near all of them. So, hey, I guess he would know. But anyway.
Especially if you're under 25. Y'all shit. You probably watch this right now, your shit stink. But yeah. Just stop dating in the United States altogether.
Okay, so that was his conclusion. And to juxtapose that with the advice that he gives to the men when it comes to hygiene. I'm just rubbing it in because, it's crazy how these women keep trying to project stuff when our reputation is stellar when it comes to that. And if you're going overseas, women appreciate that. And I'm telling you from experience, guys, you make sure that you got whether it's your essential oils, your colognes, your everything. You should want that anyway. As men, specifically black men, we like that anyway. Whether or not a woman's looking or around us, we just like smelling good or whatever, making sure everything's fresh. We just like that by default. But it goes a long way in these other cultures. In fact, it goes further than in the States, to be honest. But this was advice that he was giving passport bros back in the day. Since EU says a lot of these men got problems with hygiene. Let's go.
Wash your ass. Smell good. Take a shower at least once a day. I would say twice a day. I take a shower twice a day. Put on some good smelling lotion afterwards or some good smelling body oil. Put on some cologne. I don't care what anybody else says. Every woman on the planet appreciates a good smelling man. If you want to go over the top and spend $300 on a bottle of cologne, that lasts 2 days, because they do. Bottles you spend $300-$400 on a bottle of cologne, those last. They're strong all day. And they have a very masculine smell that is very distinctive, because a lot of people aren't spending that much money on cologne, and you will attract a lot of women with them. But you don't have to spend that much, but make sure you have a fragrance and have a signature fragrance that you can wear every day. You're going to attract a lot of women with a body fragrance. And I've even heard that you can buy male pheromones that give off some sort of natural animal instinct like signal to women. Stop smelling like shit.
Okay, so that doesn't sound like a guy who's not cognizant. Because, again, he's just a stand-in for the passport movement. But it sounds like they're very much so into, those younger guys. And I'm happy to see it. Because us guys who are older than that, we most certainly are into hygiene. So I'm not sure exactly what EU was talking about. And he even has some advice for you with regard to a little problem you have, EU. So
why do black women bleach their skin in the first place? I mean, you guys have heard me say I have a fetish for the midnight black skin. That is, I don't know if it's because in the United States, we don't have many women that black, but for me, the shit looks sexy. So why? I'm not the only one that thinks it. So why do they do this? Bleaching is often seen as a response to real social and economic pressures, not just insecurity. In many African societies, lighter skin is equated with beauty, wealth, and modernity. Men openly say they prefer light-skinned wives. And so this proves my point that I said in my previous Latin American video. In places where they integrated instead of segregating the hierarchy of you need to have a white partner, that part of white worship gets worse.
Exactly. So I wanted to play that clip because he's pointing out the fact that specifically those countries that have a history of colonialism, which was a hierarchy, which Miss EU is so against hierarchy thinking, but she's a bleacher, which is the definition of hierarchy thinking. So that's where it came from, and that's why a lot of the African countries that are, or Caribbean countries that do a lot of the bleaching, is because of that history of colonialism. But anyway, we're going to be wrapping it up. So yeah, I hope you guys got something out of that. I have more, but I don't think it's really necessary. because it's just amazing that this woman will sit up here and try to proclaim the stuff that she does. But EU, this was just an example of how I could completely body bag you, and that you're no match to the Dark Knight. And I'm not sure how long it's going to be before I have to address you next time, because you're still in the intellectual Arkham Asylum. And I'm just going to have to, put you away, maybe for good. I don't know, in the future I may address you again, but I just want to make sure this was action and power packed, so that, again, I may not need to address you directly with this level of detail, because I have essentially debunked your very existence on the internet at this point. But at any rate, we're going to end the way we always do, and that is to say that we're not just broadcast, we're a squadcast. There's a very big difference. Mission complete, over and out. And let's put this Joker away in style, shall we? I'm out.
You're afraid of being ashes. You're afraid of being forgotten. And you will be forgotten, Joker. Because of me. I am vengeance. I am the Knight. I am Batman.
No, Bats, wait! No, please! No!
Goodbye, Joker.
No, Bruce! Don't leave me! Please!